Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen refuses to take her sons trick-or-treating. Am I the jerk for insisting my wife take our sons trick-or-treating? My eldest, Liam, who's 7, has been buzzing with excitement about Halloween for weeks. He's been talking non-stop about trick-or-treating, convinced it's the highlight of the year. But to be honest, I think the whole thing is a bit ridiculous. We live in Australia, and while I get that Halloween is a thing in other countries, it just feels silly to me. It's not a tradition here, at least not in our neighborhood, and I've never seen any decorations. The few signs I've come across actually express open hostility towards Halloween because they think it's un-Australian. Every year, I buy a big bag of candy just in case, but in the 5 years we've lived here, we've never had a single trick-or-treater knock on our door. So I've been telling Liam, sorry, but it's just not something people do here. As Halloween approached, Liam's excitement reached a peak. He was practically bouncing off the walls, begging to go trick-or-treating. I tried explaining that it wasn't a common thing around here, but he didn't care. All he wanted to do was dress up and collect candy with his younger brother Noah, who's 5 and equally as enthusiastic. When I brought it up with Alicia, my wife, she outright refused to take them. "It's just a silly American tradition," she said dismissively. "I don't want to waste my time on it." I felt frustrated. Here was Liam, all hyped up for something he saw as magical, and Alicia wouldn't even consider making it special for him. I tried to reason with her, but she was resolute. "I have better things to do," she insisted. The problem was that I couldn't take them myself. I was scheduled for a work trip that would keep me away on Halloween night. "Maybe you could take them out for just a little while," I suggested. She shook her head. "I just don't see the point. I'd rather stay home and relax. Halloween is just a glorified candy grab." The more I thought about it, the more frustrated I became. I didn't want to create conflict, but it felt unfair to deny our kids a chance to enjoy something that so many others get to celebrate. I started considering whether I should just drive them to a neighborhood where trick-or-treating is embraced, even if it meant going against Alicia's wishes. After a long day of back and forth, I finally said, "I can't believe you won't even consider it. They're excited, and it's one night a year. Is it really too much to ask?" Alicia crossed her arms, her face set in defiance. "If you really care so much, maybe you should have thought about that before scheduling your trip. I'm not doing it. It's ridiculous." Feeling defeated, I pulled out my phone to look up Halloween events. If I couldn't take them, maybe I could find a way to make it work, despite Alicia's reluctance. Update: I finally found a local community event that offered a safe trick-or-treating experience. I decided to take them there myself since it's before I leave for my trip. I couldn't wait to see the excitement on their faces, even if it meant facing some backlash from Alicia for overriding her wishes. This whole thing has been the straw that broke the camel's back. I've been fed up with Alicia and her attitude for a while, and I finally decided to tell her that I want a divorce. She took it about as well as I expected, and I'm currently cleaning up our house she basically destroyed before she left to stay with her sister. Karen tried to steal my parking spot, so I made sure she never got another one again. I live in an apartment complex where parking is a hot commodity. We all kind of follow an unspoken rule. If someone's waiting for a spot, you let them have it. Simple enough, right? Well, not if you're Karen. One evening, I'm doing the usual post-work parking hunt, and after what feels like an eternity, I finally see someone about to pull out near my building. I've got my blinker on, patiently waiting for the spot. But just as I'm about to pull in, Karen zooms in out of nowhere, grabs the spot, and strolls off without a care. I honk, thinking maybe she didn't see me. But no, she just gives me that classic Karen wave and disappears into the building like she did nothing wrong. Now, I could have confronted her, but we all know how that goes. Karens don't take well to being told they're in the wrong. So instead, I decided to handle things a little differently. Here's where it gets fun. I have a friend who works for the towing company that our complex uses. After venting to him about my little Karen problem, he tells me something interesting. Karen's car is technically over the line into a fire lane. Not by much, but enough to be a violation. So the next day, he swings by, slaps a warning on her car, and of course, Karen being Karen, she ignores it. The car doesn't move, and by the next night, it's towed. You'd think that would teach her a lesson, but no, not Karen. A week later, she's back, and this time she's taking up 2 spaces like she's trying to stake her claim. I couldn't believe the nerve. So I make another call, and yep, another tow. But this time, I decided to leave a little parking gift, a sticky note on her windshield that says, "Parking is a privilege, not a right." Now, Karen's been banished to parking on the street. Every time she tries to park in the lot, she somehow ends up, accidentally, breaking another parking rule. Funny how that works. Ever since then, Karen's been very quiet. No more smug waves, no more taking spots. Just Karen being Karen, quietly parking down the street where she belongs. Am I the jerk for questioning how my son's mother spends the child support that I send? My son's mother and I didn't work out, and I travel a lot, around 6 to 8 months a year for work. She has primary custody, and I send the court-ordered child support, plus extra when I can. Fast forward to this past Sunday. I'm back in town for the holidays, and I plan to take my son out for Halloween. He wants to be a Jedi, so I showed him my own Jedi costume and asked to see the one his mom bought for him. I'd sent her extra money earlier in the month for his costume, since I wasn't sure if I'd be back in time to buy it myself. However, she told him I was going to buy the costume. That caught me off guard, but I played along and said it was in the mail. Thankfully, I managed to find a costume yesterday. Then I had a chance to talk to her privately. I asked where the extra money went. She told me I had no right to question how she spent the money, saying that since she has primary custody, she gets the majority say in things. She insisted that our son's needs are met, and that's all that should matter. I told her the money I sent was for him, not for her, since she wasn't awarded spousal support in our arrangement. Now, this is where I'm getting mixed signals. My mom says I'm being a jerk for questioning how my son's mother is raising him, especially since I'm not around as much. But I don't see it that way. I wasn't questioning her parenting, only where the money went, since she agreed to buy his costume and had said nothing about needing additional help. Early on, I covered her rent and childcare until she eventually found a job, although she took a while and ended up working in retail even though she has a teaching degree. Edit. For clarification, I sent the extra money for the costume because I wanted to be sure he got what he wanted, and his mom agreed to take him to pick it out. The support I already provide generally covers his needs: housing, food, clothing, and other basics. If she ever needed extra money for something specific for him, I'd help out, but the amount we agreed on has always been enough, at least according to her. So yes, I wanted to know where the extra went since she didn't bring up any additional need for him. Second edit. As some people requested, here's the amount involved. I sent an extra $400 on top of the regular child support because my son had had his heart set on a lightsaber he saw at GameStop, which cost $235 by itself. She agreed verbally to take him shopping for it and a costume. I transferred the money on the first along with the regular support. I get your reasoning, but you're the jerk. Honestly, why didn't you just buy him the costume in the first place? Coming from my own experience, I saw my dad weekly, but he still used child support as an excuse to put everything on my mom, every decision and every parental labor. And if that's the case with you, then I'd say yeah, she does get to spend the money how she sees fit. You traded in your say in the decision-making for the convenience of not having to raise your own kid. Right. I understand that he's upset because he sent extra money for the costume, but it seems like he didn't even think to factor in the time it takes. He just expected her to do the prep work for an activity he wants to do on his own time with his son. It sounds like he didn't even ask. Also, his comments suggesting he has a problem with how she spends the money overall, that's a clear you're the jerk to me. The money doesn't have to go directly to his son. It can be spent on household expenses. What good is a costume if you can't pay the rent or have a working car or groceries in the fridge? I think judging how she spends child support based on her not buying a Halloween costume is a bit extreme. There's a myriad of reasons she hadn't ordered the costume, and you immediately assume that she's mishandling the child support funds. Light, you're the jerk. The child support is there to help with the cost of raising a child. It does not have to be spent exclusively on that child. A parent with custody needs to be able to house more people, the child. A single person may be happy sharing a flat. If they have a kid, it's more difficult. You're the jerk. You're not in charge of how she allocates her funds. Be a good dad, make your payments, and stop with the extra drama. Not the jerk. You sent her an extra $400 that she agreed to use to buy his costume. She didn't do that. When you questioned her about it, she got an attitude with you. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for kicking out my dad after he said he couldn't afford to feed me anymore? I'm 28, recently got my own house. I moved out when I was 18, though it wasn't by choice. My dad basically pushed me out. Since then, our relationship has been rocky. He's always been a drinker and a smoker, which caused plenty of issues back in the day. Fast forward to now, he lost his house a couple of months ago for not keeping up with his loan payments. So he calls me up, saying he needs a place to stay while he gets back on his feet. I laid out a few ground rules. Either he pays rent, $400, or covers groceries, about $250 to $300, and there's absolutely no smoking in the house. He laughs it off, saying, "I'm your father, I shouldn't have to pay," but I didn't budge. Eventually, he reluctantly agrees to buy groceries. From the moment he moves in, it's just one problem after another. He leaves messes everywhere, doesn't clean up after himself, smokes inside, despite my clear rule against it, and drinks like there's no tomorrow. Then one day, I have a girl over, and he has this complete meltdown over it. I finally tell him that if he can't respect my space, he'll have to find somewhere else to stay. Things settle down for a bit, but last week he tells me, "I don't have the money to buy groceries this month." When I ask why, he replies, "Well, you eat a lot," then admits he spent all his cash on smokes and drinks. That was the last straw for me. I was done with him acting like he owned the place, done with the flashbacks to dealing with him as a teenager. I told him to pack up and leave. So, am I the jerk? I said clear boundaries and he didn't follow through. Edit. No, we didn't have a formal contract when he moved in. It was all verbal. Kicking him out won't be easy because police don't tend to offer much support to a son dealing with a parent in situations like this. The common response is that a son should take care of his elderly parent. That was actually one of the reasons I agreed to take him in. I thought that if I could do something good for him, maybe he'd change his view about me. I see now that taking him in was a mistake. How would I handle it if he refuses to leave? He goes out to buy his supplies often, so I change the locks the moment he leaves and then head out myself. If he tries to break in or damage anything, that's when I'd involve the police. Not the jerk. Your house, your rules. When the bill comes in his name, then he can run his house the way he wants to. Am I the jerk for excluding my brother from my wedding because of his fun facts? I have an older brother, David, who's 41. David has boundary issues and was in the learning disabled classes when we were younger. My parents never encouraged him to leave home or gain any independence. He has a very rough personality, and since he was never allowed to work or develop his own social circle, he's now in his 40s without any friends. During family gatherings, he always dominates the conversation with his fun facts that no one asked for, going on without realizing no one is even listening. My other siblings and I don't enjoy being around David because our parents always let him take over every social setting. My older sister even eloped to avoid the disruption David would cause, especially after my mom kept trying to find a role for him in her wedding. It was too much stress for her to handle. Now I'm getting married to Mel, and my youngest brother, Nick, is my best man. My sister, who is close to Mel, is also in the bridal party, as well as her husband, who's one of my best men. Their son will be our ring bearer. Mel wants a real wedding, and we don't want to be forced to elope as my sister did. However, we've decided that David won't have a place at our wedding, and he won't be invited. The last straw was when he insulted the engagement ring I gave Mel, going off on one of his fun facts about how diamonds are supposedly worthless and don't resell well. He started lecturing us on how I should have bought a secondhand ring or one with a colored stone. Then he launched into the history of engagement rings and marriage traditions. We tried to get him to stop, but he wouldn't listen, and my mom just kept saying to let the professor talk. Even at 40, she still thinks his fun facts are cute. This incident solidified Mel's stance that my brother can't come to the wedding. She's clear that if my parents defend him even once, they won't be welcome either. She's not going to have a wedding like my sister's, and we both feel it's time for David to be held accountable for his behavior. When my mom called to ask about wedding planning, I told her she wasn't going to be involved. After what happened during my sister's wedding dress shopping, where my mom brought David along, and he rattled off his fun facts about wedding dress history, my sister decided to elope. I made it clear that if my parents want to attend the wedding, they can come as guests, but David is not invited. Mom didn't respond at first, and after a while, I think she started crying because my dad took over the phone call. I explained what had upset Mom and reiterated that David isn't invited. I also mentioned that Mom couldn't be trusted with any part of the wedding planning, as she would likely bring David along. My dad claimed he didn't understand why we all hate David, so I explained what was wrong with his fun facts and how they make everyone uncomfortable. Dad brushed it off, saying, "The boy likes to talk, and there's no harm in it." I told him that there is harm in it, and that it's the reason that none of us want to be around him. Dad started defending David, so I told him we were at a stalemate. I said that if things continued this way, then all three of them wouldn't be coming to the wedding. I ended the conversation, but since then, my mom has been sending upset, almost frantic texts to everyone, claiming that we need to be more understanding of David, and that what I'm doing is mean. Mel feels this whole situation reinforces that we can't trust my parents to respect our wishes about David at the wedding. I agree with her and worry that they might even try to sneak David in if they do attend. Mom took David to the wedding dress shopping? I would have walked out the moment I saw him, not the jerk. Guest booked a room after being told we were sold out. Around 10 p.m. tonight, a woman came in asking about our rates, saying she wanted to check online to see if it would be cheaper that way. No problem. I told her what rooms we had available, shared their rates, and let her know we were completely sold out of our studio-style suites. She then holds her phone up, showing me a third-party site that's apparently letting her book a studio suite. I sighed inwardly and explained that while the site might let her reserve it, we simply don't have that room type available. I showed her the list of room types we had left and clarified that she'd need to choose one of those, as I had no way to edit third-party reservations. She said okay and sat down in the lobby. 2 minutes later, she comes back up, proudly announcing she'd booked it, a studio suite. At this point, I was at the very end of my shift and my patience was wearing thin. I let out an audible sigh and said, "You booked a studio. As I mentioned, we don't have any available of that type. Since it's a third-party reservation, your only real options are to cancel it and book one of our available rooms or to call the third party to see if they can adjust the room type." I'm not sure if she thought I was bluffing, but she looked absolutely shocked by this news and started in with the usual, "Well, you guys have done it for me before," and "I don't want to cancel it because I won't get my money back for days." Interesting, almost as if someone had given her clear instructions on what not to do. She asked for a manager, and of course, at that hour, there wasn't one on site. Then she asked if we could call one, and I replied, "Even if I did, they wouldn't be able to edit it because it's a third-party booking. And ma'am, I'm not going to call and wake someone up when I literally told you not to book that room type. You'll need to contact the third party or cancel and book the correct room." Eventually, she sat back down, called the third-party site, and discovered they couldn't help much either. She stormed out while still on the phone with them. A few minutes later, I got a call from the third-party representative asking if we could waive the cancellation fee. I explained the situation in full and refused to remove the fee, explaining I had specifically told her what would happen and she had chosen to ignore me, thinking she could get her way. I left a detailed note in my end-of-shift email to make sure Night Audit was up to speed on the situation and to cover myself in case she filed a complaint for being rude. By the time I was heading out, I saw her walking back up the sidewalk toward the hotel. Big props to Night Audit guy who might have had to handle this delightful guest. It's amazing how often guests will think there is some sort of one-trick hotels hate to get a room when we're completely sold out. I tell them to their face I have no empty rooms, and they scroll through their phones to the least reputable possible third-party site they can find and go, "It says you have rooms online." Sometimes I tell them these are online-only rooms, as in you can only stay in them online, not in the analog world. Wait, so the guest made a reservation that you couldn't accommodate, and then you charged her to cancel it instead of putting her in a different room? Are you insane? My daughter ruined a $3,000 dress because she was jealous. My oldest, Bethany, who's 16, has a step-sibling, Maria, who's 14, about to be 15. Bethany and I are white, while my husband and Maria are Hispanic. They've been in each other's lives since they were 6 and 7, and overall the relationship was good until recently. Maria's quinceañera is coming up, and my husband and his ex-wife took her to get her dress. The dress and alliterations came out to around $3,000. My daughter has been very jealous of the whole party. I've informed her that it's part of their culture, just like when she had a huge Sweet 16 party with her friends. I spent much more time with her to try to make her feel better about it, and I got her own, much cheaper dress for the party. The party is supposed to be in 2 weeks, but my daughter, after an argument with Maria about the TV, she scribbled all over the expensive dress and ripped the back. Long story short, everyone was upset. I gave money to my husband and his ex to try to get a new dress ASAP. I informed my daughter she will need to get a job and pay back the full price of the dress as punishment. We got in a huge argument over it, and she's saying the whole situation isn't fair and that I'm choosing Maria and being a huge jerk. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Quinceañera dresses are not cheap, and your daughter is old enough to know better. Not the jerk. Bethany deliberately ruined that dress. She has to pay for it. If she had done this to a total stranger, would she claim that you're choosing the stranger? If Maria had ruined one of her dresses, would she just let it go? Bethany's very close to becoming an adult. It's time she realizes that that comes with responsibility. I wonder what Bethany would say after reading some of these comments, because I doubt you'll see many, if any, saying that you're the jerk. Or would she complain that you put this out to the world? Bethany needs to understand that she could be charged with a crime in different circumstances. You trash something worth that much, you can get in serious criminal trouble, and she's way too old for this behavior and definitely needs a job. Am I the jerk for signing away a house to my baby mama, even after finding out she put me on child support? The mortgage is in her name, but she put my name on the deed when our son was born. We were pretty much in agreement that it was her house. 4 years later, I keep our son on the weekends now. 3 months ago, baby mama lost her job. She had me sign a piece of paper that said, handwritten, I no longer live at this address. because she can't get public assistance unless she has proof that we don't live together. My girlfriend, who works in child support, said that she's trying to put me on child support. Baby mama had always said that she'd never do that, but then my girlfriend showed me the statutes and I ran this by baby mama. She said she withdrew the application when she found out. Weeks later, baby mama says that she can't get mortgage assistance unless my name is off the deed. My girlfriend says that something seems off. I signed the documents anyway, but baby mama told me the signature wasn't valid, so we agreed to meet again and re-sign. The morning of, my girlfriend says, "I just got an email that a letter addressed to you from DSS is on its way." I text baby mama. She says she got a call about it and was going to tell me about it this evening and says it's probably just a notice, and that if she wanted me on it, she would have done it by now. My girlfriend says she's BSing and explicitly tells me not to sign the deed over. Says that I need to file for 50-50 custody. Girlfriend tells me to call DSS ASAP. Girlfriend texts me an hour later with a voice memo with a rep from Public Housing Assistance saying I do not have to be off the deed for baby mama to get mortgage assistance. I call DSS back and find that baby mama deliberately went and submitted the child support application. Girlfriend tells me to stop all contact with baby mama and that this is now a legal issue. But none of this was consistent with what I knew about baby mama. I called baby mama and she admitted to everything, but said she didn't know about not having to have me off the deed. She said she's only using public assistance until next week and then she's revoking the child support case. None of that explained why she had to take me off the deed, nor why she deliberately put in a child support application. I stated that because I don't need to be off of the deed, I will wait to sign it over. She hit me with, "So now you're trying to withhold my own house from me?" And knowing her, if I upset her by not signing it, she would keep me on child support permanently. I signed over the house. My girlfriend argued that I shouldn't give up the only asset that may help pay off the child support one day. I asked my family and coworkers and they disagreed, saying trusting her is my best option and that it would be best to sign over the deed to keep the peace. My girlfriend said that my baby mama controls me and that I'm spineless and that I had no reason to give away the only asset I had. She even went all the way to say that she felt betrayed and that I chose to appease my baby mama over protecting our household finances. We'd been fighting all weekend, but I genuinely felt like I did the morally right thing, as well as the only thing that'll make baby mama drop the child support case. Pay child support. This is not rocket science. Also, your girlfriend is going to be fired for accessing the records of the mother of your kid for personal reasons. You sound sketchy. Your girlfriend sounds sus and insecure. But also, I don't know about everywhere, but I know in New York City that if you have this situation and apply for any kind of public assistance, they require you to file for child support. Baby mama might not have a choice, but also just pay the child support. It's your kid. Info. Did you actually contribute to the purchase of the house, or was putting your name on the mortgage a gesture of making you three a family? By contributing to the purchase, I mean either contributing to the down payment or pay more than half the rental value of the house each month. If you have not contributed to the purchase of the house and you use her house as leverage to try to deal with child support, then you are lower than the gum on the bottom of someone's shoe. You should be paying child support. You have a kid and your kid's other parent is struggling. That's what child support is for. It's crappy that your baby mama is lying to you about what she's doing. Your girlfriend is urging you to be a slime ball. Baby mama lying isn't crappy at all. Sounds like she's just trying to keep her house and get the child support she's entitled to, and is rightfully scared OP won't give her her house. Lying is smart. She's protecting herself. I quit my job of 6 years just to prove to senior management how useless and incompetent my manager was. And it worked. I started my last job in 2017. I was a part-time warehouse worker who over a few years was promoted into a transport admin/management role. Myself and another colleague ran our department between us, only really reporting to our then line manager if we needed support with any part of our job, our time off, etc. But other than that, he trusted us completely to run things. It wasn't without its stressful days, but we had a really good thing going. Then in 2021, the business made some changes, moved our then line manager onto a different department, and we got a new designated manager just to manage the two of us in our department. We were naturally quite bitter about it, but nevertheless thought we'd give him a chance. He turned out to be an absolute control freak and a bully. But he was strange. He could be very supportive one minute, then a manipulative bully the next. He loved poking fun out of the fact I had a car accident last year. He loved solely targeting me for the bad jobs and loved causing trouble between me and other colleagues. Then in March of this year, my girlfriend fell ill while pregnant and was forced to give birth to our son 6 weeks prematurely. It was quite an awful time, and I ended up having 3 weeks off work. When I returned, I had a mountain of work to catch up on that nobody covered in my absence, followed by me trying to catch up on it and my manager pulling me away to do other projects for him when his other 2 staff members weren't doing anything. Then, when my work was late, was forever kicking off at me that I couldn't manage my time properly, etc. Then in May, he made a major mistake and pinned the blame on me for it. It caused issues between me and 2 colleagues I had to work closely with, and I was threatened with disciplinary action. Then I just got to thinking to myself, without me running his department, he's nothing. Without me, he wouldn't even have a job. Without me, he wouldn't be able to explain what was going on with his department to senior management. How I ran his department for him on half of his salary. He takes all the glory and we get all of the grief. I had one last run-in with him over this mistake he had made and handed my formal notice in to him the following day. It was funny over those 4 weeks of serving my notice, just watching him slowly take over my responsibilities and struggling with them. Those responsibilities that he often told me, "I don't even know what you do during the day." He had to then do the horrible jobs he used to pile on me, and on my final day in June, I told my fellow colleagues that I'll give him 3 months before he either quits or gets fired. Within the first few weeks, the department massively failed their monthly audit, which sparked attention of company directors who were sent in to investigate as this had never happened before. Then, bang, a month later, I was on holiday and I had one of the senior managers ringing me and texting me asking for passwords for systems, as my line manager had gone on holiday and hadn't organized anything. I ignored him because I didn't work there anymore and I was on holiday. Then he kept continuing to make mistakes. He hadn't ordered essential items, which caused trouble for the site. They didn't have a clue about the job in question as I originally was out to prove. Then a month after that, he was suspended from his duties pending further investigation as management finally realized he couldn't do his job in question. A month after that, management claims he quit with immediate effect. I think he was fired. But either way, my 3-month prediction was right, and he couldn't run that shift without me. It really is petty revenge quitting a job to prove a point, but it proved the point. Good riddance. I now run my own business. I have a much better work-life balance, earning more than I could ever dream of in that place, and life is fantastic. Would I be the jerk if I told my mom's realtor the truth about her house? I'm 28 female. My mom, who's 48, has a history of selfish decisions, but I feel like this is one of the biggest issues in my opinion. Her and her husband, we'll call him Rick, are actively getting ready to move to Hawaii. None of us, her kids, family, etc., think it's a good idea. They're both around 50, have worked minimum wage their entire lives, have absolutely no savings at all aside from a couple thousand they put away from income tax this year, and have absolutely no game plan. Not to mention, I keep hearing about how Hawaii natives do not want people moving there. And Rick is a self-centered jerk who thinks he's better than everyone, and can see him going over there and looking down on others there, and just not going over very well for them. Now to the big issue. They just put their house on the market, and I found out they purposely didn't disclose any of the issues with their home. Everyone was told to mind their own business. It's their house, and they'll do whatever they want. I think that's severely messed up. There's many smaller issues, like the connected garage's foundation is cracked all the way through, electrical problems and plugs that randomly overheat, turn off, plumbing issues, leaky pipes. But the kicker is that there's black mold all throughout the walls of both bedrooms and all throughout the floor in the kitchen. There are spots in the kitchen where if you step a certain way, your foot will squish through what's supposed to be a linoleum floor. I know how toxic black mold is, and I've heard about how ridiculously hard and expensive it is to get rid of it and how damaging it is to property. Well, my mom and Rick are aware that if it's known that they have black mold, it'll drastically lower the price they'll get for the house, and a bank may not even finance a loan for whoever would want to buy it. Or they'll have to pay out of pocket to fix it themselves before relisting the home. As I said, they work minimum wage and have no savings, so they can't afford to get rid of the mold. So they plan to clean up the walls in the bedrooms so you can't see the mold, and pray that the inspector doesn't find the mold in the kitchen floor, and scam whoever's buying the house into buying a toxic black mold infested house. I think that's really messed up, and I know it's not really my business, but this just adds to the many problems I have with that mother of mine, and I really want to call the realtor in charge of their listing to tell them about the problems in that house. I want to make sure she can't take advantage of some poor person trying to buy her toxic house. So, would I be the jerk if I called her realtor and let them know what's wrong with the house so that whoever buys it isn't blindsided? Update. Realtor did find out the issues. Some of the price got knocked off and they did find a buyer for the house. Now for the facepalm. My mom and her husband, Rick, are trying to move to Hawaii. It's already blowing up in their faces though. My mom and I don't talk for many reasons, but before I cut off contact, I had been trying to help her plan out their move better because her and her husband had 2 mortgages on their house and minimum wage jobs with no savings whatsoever, so I was worried that if they didn't wait for a few years and save, that they would have problems. My mom would tell me that I was jealous of her and just trying to keep her here, and that I'm negative and don't know what I'm talking about. Fast forward to now. They didn't plan this out at all. They both quit their jobs already and have already gone through most of their last paycheck and garage sale money. They're supposed to be moved out of their house by the 31st so they can start closing, but they have nowhere to go. They were originally going to be camping for a bit, but now they can't. They had originally rented a storage unit to store their stuff while they went over and found a house. That's right, they didn't even secure an apartment or house before selling theirs. They also haven't even bought plane tickets yet. They didn't plan anything at all. But anyways, they ended up taking their stuff out of storage and paying for a pod to put their stuff in to send it to Seattle so they could ship their stuff over there. Again, they don't have a home yet. Well, because they haven't closed yet, because they haven't moved out yet, they haven't gotten the house money yet, and they won't until they move out and close. Well, they now don't have enough money to ship the pod to Seattle. So according to my stepdad, not Rick, I'm close with my stepdad, he's my half-sister's dad. My mom told him that she's not leaving the house until she gets the money and can ship the pod. Only they can't close until they move out. I don't know what she's thinking. Oh, and for extra ridiculous info, they haven't even looked for new jobs over there yet. They're going over there blind with no job, no house lined up, and all their stuff. They also were going to try to sneak their cat and dog over there. I just don't get it. They're going to wind up homeless in one of the most expensive high cost of living states in the country, if they even make it there at all. My future stepmother demands I dye my hair to a more natural color for her wedding. I'm 19, female, and my dad is marrying his girlfriend of 5 years. She wants me to be one of her bridesmaids as it would look great to have me up there. I'm not particularly close to her, but we're civil, so whatever, right? I agreed, telling her I'd be happy to do so and to let me know if she needed any help with the wedding. I got a call from her last week telling me that she wants me to go to her hairdresser with her so that my hair can be made a more natural color, like my natural brown or even a deeper chestnut, as she thought that would look nice on me. I was confused by this and asked her what she was talking about. She told me I would stand out too much in the bridal party with my hair. I have waist-length hair that is an ombre of purple and pink. My hair has been this color for the past 3 years, so it's not like I sprung it on her out of nowhere just before the wedding. I told her I wasn't about to ruin the style I spent a lot of money and time to upkeep just for her wedding, and she implied that at 19 I was getting too old for such a childish style, and it was really for my own good, and reminded me how I had told her if she needed anything for the wedding to let her know. She then told me that this is what she needed. I was shocked by this, and I pointed out I had meant something like picking up party favors for the reception, dress fittings, and the like, not changing my hair. I told her I wouldn't be doing this, sorry, and if she felt that way, I just wouldn't be her bridesmaid, so I didn't stand out too much. She was upset with me, and the call ended rather coldly. I've had my dad phoning me every so often since, trying to talk me into changing my hair. He's implying it's not a big deal, and he'll pay to fix my hair after the wedding. That's not the point. It'll be difficult to get my hair back to this, and bad to recolor it. So anyway, I don't see why I have to change my style for her. I can be just a guest, though honestly, I'm not even wanting to be that now. He told me I had to be her bridesmaid, as she had told everyone I would be, and how I'd embarrass her in front of her friends and family if I refused now, as they'd think that we're not close. I've pointed out to him that we're not, and it's on her if she made it seem like we were close to people she knows. I told him if I had to be a bridesmaid, she could accept my hair as it is, or I'd just stay home. I don't know, maybe it's my inexperience with weddings, as I've never been to one before, but surely this is too much to ask of me. Maybe I should just cave in, as my dad said he'll pay to fix my hair afterwards, but the idea of going through all the work to fix it and the damage it could cause is upsetting to me. Should I just suck it up for my dad's sake? My mom is upset over this and has been fighting with my dad on the matter. Not the jerk. I'm in my 50s, and I had my hair magenta for a while and loved it. You be you. She's being ridiculous. You're not the jerk. They can invite you, the real you, or not. You can accept their invitation or not. What they don't get to do is invite an imaginary alternative version of you that they'd rather have instead of you, and then insist that you fake it. Not the jerk. The people getting married can ask someone to wear their hair up or down, or wear certain clothes, but asking hair to be cut or dyed is way too much. Also, as a woman in her 40s with purple hair, it's not childish to have hair colored whatever shade of the rainbow you like. I've refused jobs that want me to dye my hair. I'd happily refuse to participate in a wedding if doing so required me to dye my hair. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her stepmother-to-be? Please let us know. I'd tell Stepmom I'm not interested in coming to your wedding at all. Thanks for showing me your true colors. Then I'd tell Dad to get over it, but that's just me. Company VP was a major jerk, so VP and the company paid the ultimate price. Just hired by a small West Coast construction company to stand up and run a major East Coast regional office. The small company was just bought by a huge multinational construction company. First order of business, get a base of operations. Need a large warehouse with loading docks, office space, and good access to the Washington, D.C. area. The idea was to get a place for a short-term lease of 1 year. If needed, we could easily move to a better location without too much fuss. Lots of good space available, but it's not cheap and nothing will rent for less than 1 year. No problemo. Myself and executives of small company are okay. Financials look fine. I'm allowed to execute the lease on behalf of the company. Just need to run it by legal for a quick check. Lease is as standard and as fair as you'd expect. No surprises, no issues. Everything is on the up and up. Legal calls me and says it's no good. We need an early termination clause. All leases are required to have them. I reiterate that this is the shortest lease we can get, 12 months. Legal is adamant that they need the early term clause. Okay, time to renegotiate again. Leasing company won't budge, won't accept anything less than 12 months. I plead with legal for help. This is the in-house counsel for a huge international construction company that does work across all sectors. They spend millions on politicians and legal. Legal's response? We don't negotiate or provide lease documents. I'm like Bob from Office Space. What exactly do you do here? Legal says, legal will review the contract and approve, but you must negotiate and execute the contract. Cue malicious compliance. I need this wrapped up now, so I draft a clause that says basically this. Early termination. Tenant will have the right to terminate the lease for any reason. Tenant will be required to pay a termination fee equal to 200% of the remaining rent due on the lease. I sent it to our legal team, expecting them to revise it. Nope, completely approved. Okay to execute. I sent it to the property manager company, and they were dumbfounded. I said, our legal department is okay with this. Are you? They said sure. Before a year was out, I was let go for political reasons. I tried to inform the new VP about the lease and other issues, but new VP wasn't interested in what I had to say. Okay by me. At the end of the lease, VP renewed the original contract for 4 years. A few months after VP renewed the lease, VP decided to move the warehouse. The hefty 7-figure and valid early term bill was paid without question by accounts payable. This totally crushed the VP and P&L and completely prevented any bonuses for himself and his staff that year. Legal also got a lot of heat for signing off on the original and renewal. VP was axed about 18 months later under a cloud of fraud and bribery. Yeah, there was stuff going on. Malicious compliance stage 2. As I said, this is a construction company, and on the East Coast, most states require a contractor's license to do any contracting work. This license is required to pull permits and legally do construction, and it's also part of your insurance contracts that you are in full legal compliance. So that afternoon, after I was terminated, I sent off the required registered letters to the appropriate licensing bodies in a number of states and removed myself as the designated individual. In other words, I was the general contractor on that license, meaning without me, the company is no longer a general contractor in those states. Now, the company usually has 30 days or so to backfill that individual, but it's not easy to find a person already licensed. All of a sudden, legal gets a letter from a bunch of states saying that branch of huge multinational is no longer a GC. And this gets sent to the insurance companies, which in turn immediately inform the clients that the policy is no longer valid until it is rectified. This halts all work in a number of states, even for work not part of my region, as the company was using my license to pull permits and get work without my knowledge. They did eventually fix this, but it was a scramble and was a huge black eye, and they lost a lot of work as awarded POs were assigned to properly licensed contractors. From what I heard through the grapevine, one of the hardest hit was those places they did the shady stuff and used my license without me knowing about it. Am I the jerk for not making him dinner for 2 nights after he gave all of our leftovers to his sister? To be blunt and to the point, we have a family of 5, 3 kids under the age of 11 and 2 adults. We live paycheck to paycheck, and I have to coupon and pinch pennies most weeks. I do have a garden and livestock, but it only goes so far. Limited yard space and town code. My sister-in-law is an individual who gets nearly $1,000 a month for food stamps, despite only having 1 kid and 3 working adults in the home. Plus, she has no big bills due to inheriting a paid-off home, so it's only land tax of $280 a year. She has a significant amount of money more than us due to this. She invites us down for dinner 3 nights ago and asks my husband to bring a dish. He decides he wants to do a casserole that costs easily $60 to make, considering the portions. I told him we would have to bring the leftovers home because that's a lot of money. Needless to say, no one at the dinner touched the dish he prepared. I left early because the kids were tired, and he comes home without the leftovers hours later. I ask where they are, and he said his sister asked if she could keep them because she didn't feel like cooking and claims he felt cornered and couldn't say no. His sister is 100% aware of how hard up we are too, so the amount of selfishness and disrespect baffles me to the highest degree. Those leftovers would have fed this household of 5 for 2 days. I was livid for obvious reasons. This means that the $60 he spent was basically thrown down the drain and we couldn't afford it. The past 2 nights, I've been making the kids dinner, not even myself, to save on food costs because I need to make up for this. $60 with my couponing at a grocery store would have been enough groceries to last us about a week and a half, but he didn't use coupons to buy the meal. He went while I was at work, and therefore we need to recoup. So yeah, I've only been making my kids food, and I personally have been eating things from the garden, cucumbers, tomatoes. He said I'm being a jerk and punishing him for wanting to help his sister, who in my opinion was simply lazy and didn't feel like cooking for her 1 kid with her free food that she gets from food stamps. But no matter how I put it, he still thinks I'm the jerk here. ETA, food stamps questions. In my state, they currently have the $450 extra per kid, school kids, because of lockdown food stamps bill passed in 2021. 1 kid is 13 and the other is 18 and goes to college. Therefore, my sister-in-law is still collecting that $450 extra for the 18-year-old because she is apparently still considered a kid until she's 21, stops going to school, or moves out. Dang, for sure not the jerk. Take care of the family first. Sorry sis, I got mouths to feed. I'm taking the casserole. That should have been it. Sorry you have to live like that. Not the jerk. I can't stand adults who don't have the courage to stand up for themselves, especially when it affects their family. It's not like you're not making food for him out of spite. He chose to make an expensive dish and he chose to not take it home. That took up the budget, and now his decisions mean less food for him. He should go to his sister's to eat. Is there a food pantry near you? I recommend checking it out and seeing if you can get something to help you through these challenging times. I'm sorry you're dealing with this and that your husband valued his pride and ego over your family's health. Not the jerk. Male Karen and property lines. I'm a senior construction superintendent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The project I'm currently on is a 13-acre site smack in the middle of an extremely affluent area to the north of Dallas. 3 weeks ago, a city inspector that we'll call Joe came into the site office and said that they received a complaint about a sprinkler/soaker line being damaged during excavation for the fire lane. He, my landscaper, and myself went to investigate, discovered where a small fitting had blown out of the line. Landscaper repaired it. I went up to knock on the door to explain to them the issue and inform them of the repair. I got no answer at the door, so I left a card and a note asking them to call me. They never did. A week later, Joe comes in and mentions that they've reached out again about the noise from equipment, which is odd because anyone with heavy equipment is currently working on the other end of the property. I again went to go speak with them, got no answer at the door, and left a card again. Yesterday, in walks Joe to tell me that they're complaining about our construction fence is on their property and it's destroying their grass. The fence is 12 feet from their fence, and our specs call for it to be a minimum of 15 feet from the property line. So I pull up our CAD files on the survey plot so I can make sure we have it placed exact and realize that their wood fence is 4 feet onto our property. Their house is about 14 inches onto our property. During all of this, I get an email from the city asking me to place the construction fence squarely on the property line. The email is sent to me, the apparent homeowner, Joe, and my project manager. I brought the surveyors back out yesterday to pinpoint our property corners and give us some 10-foot offsets, reference points 10 feet east of the property line for line of sight to measure from. I knocked on the homeowner's door again and got no answer. Mind you, every time there were cars in the driveway. Fast forward to this morning, my fence crew showed up and they began moving the fence onto the property line, which takes 31 inches, 2 feet 7 inches, of their driveway and 18 feet of the road where it ends at the property, was previously a cul-de-sac. The client finally reached out, or more accurately, came to the site office in a huff. I explained the issue, showed him the plat, and he left with some unkind words flowing from him, like diesel exhaust on a steep incline. I put a pause on the fence relocation just to soothe the wound. My PM called him, I called the city right-of-way engineer and our client. We set up a meeting that just ended. He claimed that our plat was wrong. The engineer and everyone else disagreed. The back and forth went on long enough for the client, who was an extremely laid-back and quiet gentleman, to finally speak up and basically say, "We're just going to go ahead and sell you the property you've stolen at current market value plus 10%. In this area, that's not cheap. If that's not acceptable, we'll just have you move your fence, cut out your driveway, and use the east side of your home for advertisement. Or you can back off, let these guys work, and we'll give you lifetime use of the area you currently occupy, so long as there's no more hassling of any kind." The guy asked me if we had moved the fence back out, and I told him no. I agreed to take it off his driveway, but the street and green space belonged to us. We only did what he asked us to. The engineer who asked me to move it agreed. So there it is, the story again, the fallout and conclusion. Am I the jerk for not making enough dinner for my mother-in-law and ignoring her completely? I, 29 female, live in an apartment with my husband, 31 male. Recently, my mother-in-law has come to visit since she's trying to relocate here. She's been staying with us since hotels and Airbnbs are at an all-time high. She's been here a month and it's been, well, difficult. She doesn't help with anything like cooking or cleaning. She also takes my husband's car without knowledge, so I have to give him a ride to work. She also throws stuff away she thinks we don't use. She also has been going shopping lately, buying decor. She was only supposed to stay 2 weeks to see if she likes it here and try to find a home. It seems like she wants to relocate here and like she found her home with us. I've had conversations with my husband to get her to leave. He's asked and begged, but she still doesn't want to leave and he doesn't want to disrespect her. I've remained kind, but I can't take it anymore. I went into the guest room she's staying in and cleared it out. I took all the clothes out of the dresser and closet and put it into her suitcase. I also put all of her things on the floor. She came home and yelled at me, then got into a fight with my husband. She then apologized and said she couldn't afford the plane ticket back, and if my husband books it, she leaves. Well, he did for yesterday. She refused to go because it was the cheapest ticket on the cheapest airline and that she was worth more than that. We got her into another flight and she got a hotel for the night. Well, today she came home and opened the door. It wasn't locked. She then passed us and put all her things in the empty guest room. She went to the living room where we were and said, "Well, are you guys ready to apologize?" We were dumbfounded, of course. I stormed to my bedroom and locked myself in there. I took a nap and came out and they were both watching TV. It was around 6 at the time and I decided to start getting dinner ready. When I started, my mother-in-law went and started trying to talk to me, basically saying I should apologize. She noticed I was ignoring her and started yelling. I kept ignoring her until she went with my husband. I blocked out their conversation. I was quiet and set the plates. I only made enough servings for me and my husband. I sat and ate, and they came to do the same. She saw there were only 2 plates and went to look for more food. There wasn't any. I don't know how it happened, but we got into a huge fight, and I ended up throwing all our clothes outside and screaming at her for all my neighbors to see. She was crying, and my husband was begging for me to stop. I drove to my friends, shaking and mad. I passed out and woke up to paragraphs upon paragraphs of not just my husband and mother-in-law, but sister-in-law and brother-in-law, basically telling me I'm a jerk for disrespecting mother-in-law and embarrassing her. Well, I have no idea what to feel. So, am I the jerk for how I reacted? Not the jerk. Tell your husband you go or she goes, as this is a problem with him being a mama's boy. Tell your sister-in-law and brother-in-law they can take her in if they're so concerned. I'm wondering if she even still has a place to return to. I'm wondering if she even intended to find a place to move to. She can't afford an airline ticket, but she can supposedly afford to move? I suspect that she planned to just live with them all along. Not the jerk. Your husband chose his mother. Go to the bank and close all the joint accounts. Cancel all the credit cards. Hire a divorce attorney. It's over. Not the jerk. Mother-in-law sounds like a boundary stomper. You need to have a long conversation with husband about this and why it's unacceptable. You tried to be nice. You tried to be a little more direct, and clearly she wasn't taking the hint. To have the courage to come back after being essentially thrown out of your house and ask you to apologize? You need a divorce ASAP. I'll never understand why women stay with loser mama's boys. When a dude acts like his mom is some wonderful woman, it's a major red flag and I want nothing to do with him. The problem is, their delusional mothers come from a time where they were completely different than we are. Oh, your mom didn't mind doing dishes and laundry, cooking and raising the kids? So you think I should be okay doing that crap too? No thanks, mama's boy. If you want me, be a real man and do the cooking yourself. I'll order takeout like normal people do. And as for laundry, I'm not a maid. If you want your clothes clean, then wash them yourself. So sick of these entitled dudes thinking their moms are some sort of role model. It's not the 50s anymore, so get over it. My crippling depression and anxiety gets me over $1,200 a month, so I don't even need to work for myself. Why the heck should I work for you as a live-in maid? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mother-in-law? Please let us know. Oh look, another mummy's boy. Do some soul searching? Okay. I started working for a company as an administrative assistant, purchasing office supplies, routing paperwork, coordinating meetings, etc. A person on my team left, so I picked up their duties while my boss looked for a replacement. The interview process for the replacement started in March of 2020, but it was not completed due to lockdown. I continued to cover both jobs easily since my original position did not have a lot of work to be completed while working from home. My boss compensated me for the extra work at a 10% salary increase, and all was going well. As we navigated the lockdown and realized how to work efficiently from home, my positions picked up more and more duties. I was designated as the executive assistant to my boss's boss's boss, which added on additional part-time position to my role. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was not happy doing the work of 2.5 people and bringing in a measly 10% salary increase. I started discussing growth options with my boss last September. She asked me to put together a justification document as to why I deserved a growth path or promotion. I put something together within a few weeks. Doing 2.5 jobs kept me really busy, and sent it to her. We discussed it at our next get-together, and she said she'd have to discuss it with her boss. Next time we met, she asked me to put together another document on where I saw myself in 5 years. Okay, I put that together and sent it. Next time we met, she asks me to put together another document on the justification. I told her I was not going to keep pursuing these tasks if they aren't getting us anywhere. She said she'd discuss this with her boss. We're in February at this point, and I'm getting tired of being strung along when my boss finally sets up a meeting with her boss, and me. We met. I voiced my frustrations. They give me reasons as to why I am not entitled to a promotion. My boss said she already told me the reasons, but this was new information to me, and encouraged me to do some soul searching. I start soul searching. Am I really happy in this role? No. Do I feel supported by my boss or upper management? No. Why do I want to stay here if I know I'm not going anywhere career-wise? Beats me. I start applying to different jobs, within the company and externally as well. I'm still working towards a promotion with my current position, but I can't get my boss to give me any timelines or solid process to follow. We're now into April and have gotten nowhere. She's now asking me to look into different options other than a promotion, which do not follow the original path I wanted. The promotion would allow me career growth options in my current positions. Pursuing the other paths led nowhere. I interview for a position internally under a different supervisor. While I wait to hear back on that interview, I have concluded that I am no longer interested in the promotion. It was now May and we were still at square one. My boss sets up a meeting with HR to discuss what needs to be done for a promotion, which I feel like should have been done in September when we started this whole process. My boss made a comment that she never knew the process fully and wants to follow all the rules. Great. We've been wasting my time for the last 9 months. Fantastic. Finally, some good news for me. I got the job. As soon as I knew I had the job, I told my supervisor I was resigning. She was dumbfounded. She made comments about how we could have moved past the problems we faced. We were working towards a promotion, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Everybody who interacted with my supervisor during my 2 weeks' notice said she was grouchy and didn't want to talk about my departure. She now had to figure out how to complete my 2.5 duties while finding my replacement. I started my new job, and due to when I started work on the morning and my new supervisor started work on the morning, I had some extra time. I was going to finish up some things. My new boss was super accommodating with that plan, but my old boss took away the access I needed. I gave her a detailed list of what I was unable to complete, and she granted me the access I needed to complete those tasks. Too late. I was already knee-deep in introductory meetings and no longer had the time to assist. It's been 3 weeks now, and I couldn't be happier. My old boss and team are falling apart due to my boss being unable to lead a team. An awesome new hire, 2 to 3 months of work for my old boss, is already looking for a new job due to being bait and switched. I know of more people who are fed up with the leadership in my old team, beyond my boss, who are also looking for new jobs. Am I the jerk for yelling at my aunt in front of a restaurant full of people? When I, 30 male, was 5, my family took me to one of those Japanese steakhouses where they cook the food at your table. When the cook lit the grill and the huge flame shot up into the air, it scared me and I ran and hid in the corner and was too afraid to come back to the table. My aunt, 64 female, has teased me about that ever since. That was 25 years ago, and I swear she brings it up every single time I see her. I've told her repeatedly to stop talking about it. My parents have also asked her to stop bringing it up, to no avail. It's gotten so tiresome and embarrassing, and she teases me about it in front of the whole family, despite me repeatedly telling her to stop. I've never really gotten along well with my aunt, and lately I've made it a point to avoid her at family gatherings. We celebrated my birthday Friday, and I wanted to go to one of those Japanese steakhouses. I didn't invite my aunt, but my grandmother invited her behind my back. I didn't know she was coming until she showed up. I was already upset that my grandmother invited her. She told me that my aunt is family, and I can't just exclude her from everything. But as soon as we sat down, my aunt brought up the incident that happened when I was 5. I told her to stop bringing it up, and my mom told her to stop as well. But when the cook was fixing to light the hibachi, she asked me in this really condescending way, "You sure you don't want to go hide in the corner for old time's sake?" I finally just lost my temper and went off on her right then and there in front of the whole restaurant. I basically yelled at her, "Will you just shut up about that already? That was 25 years ago. Is that literally all you have to talk about? I'm sick of hearing about it. This is why I didn't invite you." I swear the entire restaurant must have been staring at me, and I felt like just walking out. The entire rest of the dinner was awkward, and I couldn't even enjoy my meal. After we left, my grandmother told me that I embarrassed her in front of everyone, and that my outburst was completely uncalled for, and that I owed my aunt an apology. My parents told me I didn't owe my aunt anything, and they were angry at my grandmother for inviting her. But I still feel like a jerk for losing my temper and yelling in front of the restaurant, and the whole thing was deeply embarrassing. My grandmother and my aunt are also both blasting me on Facebook for embarrassing them in public. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. She had been told and warned repeatedly to stop. For this to go on for 25 years is ridiculous. You had every right to do what you did because obviously it was going to take extreme measures for her to shut up. You embarrassed her? That is what she's been doing to you for 25 years. Your grandmother was out of line to invite someone to your birthday party that she knew you didn't want there. Blast them back. They are not owed an apology. Not the jerk. Sure, you could have handled it more cordially, but what your aunt is doing to you is so mean, and you have absolutely no obligation to put up with it. Your grandmother and your aunt are the jerks. Your parents are right, and I'm glad you have that support. Regardless of what your grandmother does, I suggest you continue to exclude your aunt. Your folks have your back. Not the jerk. I get you feel bad and embarrassed by your behavior, but try to be gentle to yourself and give yourself a pass on this. You've been tormented for 25 years for crying out loud. Ignore Facebook. Who cares what they think? It's very telling both your parents support you and don't think you should apologize. It shows you are absolutely right to react the way you did. If you have to see your aunt in the future, I would suggest the sentence, "Nothing more memorable has happened to you in 25 years? Boring," and simply walk away. To grandma, "Nope, still not apologizing. Anything else?" Then walk away. You don't owe either of them an apology, an explanation, or any more of your time and civility. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his aunt? Please let us know.
I'd tell my aunt it wasn't the fire that scared me when I was little, it was her dragon breath.
Would I be the jerk if I asked my sister to hide her engagement at my wedding and uninvite her fiancé? I posted a "Would I be the jerk?" asking if it would be mean to not allow my sister's boyfriend to propose at my wedding, and after the positive responses, decided to not let him propose. He was very understanding and polite and said it was totally fine, so we didn't think to inform the DJ or the security about his plans like some comments suggested. Big oopsie, he proposed anyway. After the ceremony of our wedding, we all went to sit down and eat some snacks, and we heard Mark take the mic. The entire evening, our friends and family had been giving short speeches and telling funny anecdotes, so we did not think much of it. However, Mark just said, "This is for your sister." What happened next sounds unreal even to me. My now husband and I have a couple song, which are our thing. Mark danced to 3 of them in his proposal. Furthermore, we had a simple rule for the wedding. No inappropriate songs. He played 2 of them, then proposed. She said yes. Both my husband and I were very hurt. So as to not make a scene, we slipped out into the garden. A while later, we heard our first dance song playing inside the venue. We walked back in, and it seemed like Mark and my sister were dancing to it. At this point, my husband was very saddened, and we decided to leave. We told all our guests that we were very tired and returned to the hotel. The next day, today, a friend told us that after the newly engaged couple finished dancing, Mark went up to the mic and said the song sucked and was a really bad idea for a first dance. I really don't know what to say or do. Neither of them said anything to us this morning, which I understand, post-engagement bliss and all, but it was still hurtful. Now, here comes the problem. Tomorrow is our reception, and I really don't want Mark to come. He's hurt me and my husband a lot already, and I don't want to give him another chance to do so, and I just don't want his presence there. Next, and I know this sounds horrible, but I want my sister to not tell everyone about her engagement and not wear her ring. This is because today, when our reception guests started coming in, an aunt asked to compare our rings and engagement stories. It was horrifying. I don't know how I will take it if this happens during the reception. Moreover, there will be more guests who have nothing to do with our families, like our colleagues. It will be a little awkward for them as well. I'm pretty sure that if I were to do this, my family would go nuts, and it will be embarrassing for them to announce my sister's engagement after my wedding. My husband says he will unconditionally support whatever decision I take. So, would it be a jerk move to ask Mark to not attend and ask my sister to hide her engagement? Karen bosses me around at work, so I made her cry. Okay, title sounds bad, but hear me out. So for context, I, 26 female, have been working at a corporate job for about a year. It's great, it pays really well, and I get along with pretty much everyone there. However, there's this one manager at work. Let's call her Leanne. She's around 40 and female. And most of us don't get on with her at all, as she's always humiliating people by talking down to us. For example, my coworker has a lisp, and last week when she asked him how far along he was with a project, he said it would still take a little while. She basically blew up at him, but half of the time when she was screaming at him, she was putting on a fake lisp to mock him. She'll always have a pile of work on her desk for other people to do because she needs to leave work to collect her kids from school when the father doesn't show up to collect them when it's his turn. Another thing is, she always expects us to stay on later than expected and coming in earlier, but we don't get paid for this time. That's just a few examples, because if I listed all of the things she does, it would be over the word limit. So today, I get told that I'm being promoted to a much higher position within the company. I'm excited about it as it pays better and will give me a lot more responsibility. The thing is, this position basically will make Leanne my subordinate. So I was telling a few coworkers about the promotion. We were just standing in the break room, laughing and chatting when she came in. She started going off on us about not working, saying things like,
"Oh, I get it. You guys must think you're on vacation just because it's a nice day out, do you?"
At one point she said,
"If you people don't get your butts back to the office right now, I'm going to report it to higher management."
The more she talked, the angrier I got. And when she finally finished berating us, I stood silently for a second and then just said something like, "I'll consider this being you reporting it to your higher management, as that's currently my position in the company." One of my coworkers snorted, and Leanne looked furious. Then I just told her that me and my coworkers were okay to be in the break room, as it was literally our break time, that it was pretty rich to tell us we couldn't take a coffee break when she herself would leave work regularly to pick up her kids because her ex-husband couldn't be bothered. I said that she wasn't to speak to any of us like that anymore, or I'd have her written up within the minute. She stood there for a whole minute, it felt like, and then she started tearing up. Then she left without a word. I felt horrible because I humiliated her in front of people she's managing and I made her cry. My coworkers are saying that she had it coming, but one of them thinks I went too far, bringing her kids into it. So, am I the jerk? If you don't want to spend time having to defend your behavior to HR, you need to learn quickly that you can't dress a subordinate down in public. Just because she used to do it doesn't make it right. Where I am, people can claim workers' compensation because managers humiliate them by giving them negative feedback in front of a crowd instead of in private. If she went on stress leave where I am, a claim could get up because of your behavior. Everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. Praise in public, criticize in private is a lesson that good managers follow. Her behavior was out of line, but so was your public criticism. What you said to her was appropriate in my opinion, but should have been said just between the two of you in private. Everyone sucks here. Where is your boss anyhow? Is anyone managing this behavior? What company allows her to speak like that anyhow? Further, you're not her boss yet, and you can't, or shouldn't, speak to her like that when you are her boss. This company is crazy. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Leanne? Please let us know.
"OP's sticking up for herself. I think you commenters need some milk."
Entitled dog mom screams at my daughter for petting her dog. So I work as a secretary/receptionist at a small veterinary practice. By small, I mean that there are 2 vets, 3 nurses, and me. 6 employees total. One of the vets founded the practice 30 years ago, and her son is one of the nurses. Because it's so small, we really are like a family, and often get together at each other's houses for drinks and stuff. Because of this, we're also all pretty well acquainted with each other's families. The 2 youngest of the group are my daughter, Elori, who's 7, and one of the nurses, who's 35, male, his son, who's 8. They go to the same school and often carpool if needed. This summer, my daughter had summer camp in the morning, but nothing in the afternoon. Since my boyfriend and I both work until 5, me and 4, him, my boss said it was absolutely fine for Elori to hang out around the office until my boyfriend could come get her after he got off work. Most of the time, Elori either plays games on her phone, watches YouTube, or does some arts and crafts in the back office. From where I sit at the front desk, I can see her and her me, but clients cannot see her. Occasionally, my boss will offer for Elori to come help her with a very sweet and gentle pet. She will usually hold the pet and grab tools that the vet leaves on the counter for her. Always just normal checkups. Elori was just exiting the exam room to give one cat back to her owner when this entitled mom walked in with her yapping dog pulling at a leash. She takes one look at Elori handing someone a pet and immediately gets angry.
"Where's the vet?"
I tell her that my boss is prepping for her next appointment and that she can sit down and wait.
"Where are your parents? You should not be in a medical area."
She directs this question at Elori. Lori points to me, which directs her back in my direction.
Where are her parents?
She asks me. I'm her mom.
You're a teenager.
Actually, I'm 21. Not that it's any of your business. At this point, her dog is absolutely losing it. He's barking, pulling at his leash, lunging towards Lori. She immediately becomes scared, even though this dog is like a beagle. She loves dogs, but also knows exactly when to stay out of a dog's radius of reach. However, like I said, the office is small. This dog is between me and the desk and Lori. She can either try to go around the dog to get to me, which clearly the dog will be able to get to her, or head back into the exam room, a route which also put her in the dog's path. As I realize this, I stand up to go get her, and she chooses to attempt to come to me at the desk, putting her in the dog's path. Predictably, the dog comes at her and gets one nip before I can throw myself between them. Lori's sobbing. The owner is screaming that Lori had touched her dog, and one of the nurses, the one who's a dad, comes out to figure out what the heck is going on. Without even asking, he immediately and firmly escorts entitled mom outside to defuse the situation. I take Lori to the back office. Thankfully, she was fine. 10 or so minutes later, he comes back in without entitled mom. I ask him what happened, and he told me that entitled mom threatened to sue me for letting Lori touch her dog. He reminded her that any dog unable to sit quietly was required to be in a crate, and after some choice words, she left. He also tells me that he will be covering the end of my shift and that I should get Lori out of there and do what's best to calm her down. We got ice cream and watched Encanto. You can't perform Creep by Radiohead due to spirit of the song. Our institution of about 2,000 staff had yearly dinner and dance events. This was before lockdown, of course. This is an educational institution where most of us are either teachers or administrators. I am part of a small group of teachers and staff at this institution that formed our own staff rock band. We're usually given a 30-minute performance slot at previous dinner and dances, thus we were invited to perform again for the upcoming one. The theme for that year was superheroes. Our merry little band set out a full set list of songs, which included songs like Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler, the Shrek soundtrack version. We threw in Creep by Radiohead because we wanted a song to slow the pace down midway through our set. All of us in the band are music lovers covering multiple genres and also coming from many different faiths and religions. None of us even considered that Creep would be an inappropriate song on stage. So now let me introduce the antagonist of this story. I'll call him Ash. He was the main staff coordinator for the entire dinner and dance event, a role that was bestowed on up-and-coming staff who show potential for leadership positions. Ash and his committee were the ones who came up with the superhero theme and would oversee everything for the event, including our little 30-minute performance. Before this event, none of us in the staff band knew Ash well. He was a bit of a loner, and as we would soon discover, he also takes his religion and values very seriously. So seriously that he had no qualms claiming jurisdiction over the whole event with his values as constitution. We had given the event committee our song set list 2 months before the event, after which we began rehearsing in earnest. No committee member said anything in those 2 months about our songs they wanted removed. At our last rehearsal before the event, Ash decided to drop into our rehearsal. Midway through our set, as we began to play Creep, he suddenly raised his hand to object and said, "Stop, stop, stop. I'm removing this song from your set list. You can't play this song." We were stunned. This was 2 days before the show, and we had sunk in tens of hours of rehearsal by this point. Why? We asked. I read the lyrics of this song. The spirit of this song is offensive. It has the wrong values for an educational institution such as ours. We protested. Some of our band members were very religious themselves, and they saw no problem with the song, but he would not budge an inch. You are not playing Creep on stage. I'm going to escalate this to the deputy principal. The band members were fuming at this point, regardless of religion, but the band leader made the call. Okay, we can't play this song on stage, right? Then we won't. And just to be sure, this is a superhero-themed event, right? And your committee is encouraging all attendees to come dressed as superheroes? Am I correct? Yes, Ash replied, and especially so for the performers. So we are expecting your band to come dressed up as superheroes to fit our theme. Cue malicious compliance.
The day of the dinner and dance comes around, and over 1,000 colleagues showed up. Some dressed in Superman t-shirts, some as Wonder Women, and even one in full Deadpool costumes. But none of them grabbed as much attention as one very tall, very leggy, very conspicuous Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon had on the tight-fit sailor uniform, slim waist, skirt, and the wig. It was none other than the band leader, who, by the way, is a 40-year-old male. Ash was livid, but as Sailor Moon was grabbing so much attention with so many folks clamoring to have photos taken with her, Ash did not want to spoil his own party by telling her to change. At one point, even the deputy principal grabbed a photo with Sailor Moon. The 30-minute performance was decent. Mistakes here and there, but none of us were professional, and the crowd enjoyed it anyway. Sailor Moon, who was the bassist, was headbanging and swinging her wig wildly to the finale, holding out for a hero, ensuring that everyone had their eyes on her. Naturally, there would be a Best Dressed segment, and it was clear from the start that Sailor Moon was going to be nominated and then destroy the competition. But Sailor Moon did something none of us expected. As the MC for the event asked her why she chose to come as Sailor Moon, and the entire event hall was riveted on her, curious to hear her answer, she did not answer, but instead started to sing. "But I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. What the heck am I doing here? I don't belong here." The crowd cheered and applauded, but no other table at the event was as overjoyed as the staff band table, who understood the deeper meaning behind what the band leader just did. It's been a few years since the event, and we aren't sure if Ash got that promotion he was seeking. He was such a loner that nobody really saw him much, thus nobody talked about him either. The band leader, on the other hand, became a legend. He was once at a meeting where the folks across from him said that he looked very familiar, like they had seen him somewhere before. Then somebody suddenly burst out, "You're Sailor Moon! You're that Sailor Moon!" They didn't even know his name. Would I be the jerk if I give a family heirloom belonging to my late wife to my adopted daughter? My late wife, Kate, passed about 12 years ago. They have a family heirloom that has passed down several generations, starting from her great-grandmother, from mothers to their first daughters on their 18th or thereabouts birthdays. The heirloom itself is not highly valuable in a financial sense, but the history makes it very valuable to the family. I currently possess it after Kate passed, and I always intended to give it to my daughter, Claire, on her 18th birthday. She's currently 16. I married my current wife about 8 years ago. My stepdaughter, Sarah, whom I have adopted and consider my own daughter, is 17 years and 11 months old. Her 18th birthday is in a month. My wife has also adopted Claire, and we all consider each other as just one family. My wife asked me to give the heirloom to Sarah on her birthday to continue the tradition. I was hesitant because I always intended to give it to Claire, who is Kate's only daughter, as this is what she would have wanted, and it's the continuation of the tradition. My wife counters that this belongs to our family now, and we should give it to our eldest daughter on her 18th birthday, and therefore this should belong to Sarah. I told her that while I consider Sarah to be my daughter, but she's not Kate's daughter, this belongs to Kate and should go to Kate's daughter. My wife said Claire is her daughter, not anyone else's, and wife accused me of playing favorites and told me that if I truly consider Sarah to be my daughter, then I'll do the right thing for her, or that I haven't really accepted Sarah as a real daughter yet. I consulted my son, from Kate, who's 25 years old, and he told me that if I do this, he's going to walk from the birthday party, and that he bets he won't be the only one. He said if I do this, I should be ready for severe consequences. He left in a very frustrated way. His argument in the end was that this isn't yours to give away. It was Mom's, and now belongs to Claire. My wife thinks my son is overreacting, and it's only due to his age and moving out that he's never bonded with Sarah like Claire and I have, so he doesn't consider Sarah to be his real sister. Otherwise, he'd be happy for her. My wife thinks Claire will be happy about this since she considers Sarah to be her big sister, and it will bring the girls even closer together because Sarah will happily share it with Claire and they'll both have it. So, would I be the jerk if I did what my wife wants me to do and give the heirloom to Sarah? You're the jerk for even considering it. Your wife is also an even bigger jerk for pressuring you to do it. It belonged to Kate. It's you who adopted Sarah. Kate didn't. It should stay with Kate's kids. Give it to Claire on her 18th birthday. I don't trust your wife around it. You should seriously consider giving it to your son, or ideally Kate's mother if she's still alive, for safekeeping. You're the jerk. If you and Kate adopted Sarah together, it would make sense for her to get the necklace. But Kate never knew Sarah, so the necklace should 100% go to Claire. If Claire didn't exist, I would say it should go to one of Kate's nieces. Sarah would not make the list because she did not know Kate. I'm so shocked your wife even suggested it. It was way out of line. The necklace belongs to Kate's family. Well, what do you think? Should OP give the necklace to his stepdaughter or not? Please let us know. Bruh, am I the jerk for calling my best friend dumb for marrying for love? I, 27 female, am in a very stable relationship with my fiance, 29 female, for around 4 years, and we're planning to get engaged eventually and then marry. My best friend Chrissy, fake name and also 27 female, has been with her own fiance since they were 20. They only got engaged this year, and it was kinda weird how it took him so long to propose since he seemed to be financially stable and all. Throughout the years, I asked Chrissy why her fiance hadn't proposed yet, and she kept insisting it was not the right time, but she'd never say the reason why, just that it wasn't the right time. Eventually, he proposed in the beginning of 2022, and they're planning their wedding for next year. They decided to plan their engagement party during summertime because due to busy schedules, they couldn't do it earlier. So the engagement party was this past Saturday, and her fiance made a speech dedicated to her and mentioned pretty much the reasons they didn't get engaged sooner, and I couldn't help but pity my friend. So the reasons were that he didn't have a stable job for their first few years of their relationship and only jumped from position to position from Walmart to Target, etc. He hadn't finished his degree yet, so he had no higher education. Then he got his degree in 2019, and only then was he able to get a proper job. He bragged and also thanked Chrissy for never giving up on him and growing with him, and how they helped each other form their amazing personalities and achievements, and how no matter what the future holds, he'll never forget, etc. My fiance and I felt some type of way about it. Some friends of mine and Chrissy agreed how Chrissy basically stayed with a broke man and waited for 7 years, and we don't think that's something praiseworthy, but pity-worthy. As friends, we decided to explain to her our perspective of how we think it was ridiculous that she had to almost reach 30 to move on with her life with that man when someone else could have provided what she needed much sooner. Chrissy always said how she wanted marriage and kids, and it's sad she had to wait this long for this man to get his act together, and she didn't know her worth. She said she loves him and he's an amazing partner and wouldn't break up with him over his misfortunes, and what matters is that they love each other. I told her it's dumb how she's marrying for love and not for stability, and how she's basically wasted herself for love, and how the first issue should have been raised when he was working at Walmart and Target back to back. She called us all materialistic, and she said she doesn't care if she struggles financially, as long as she struggles with the right person who will value her emotions and listen to her. She said we are miserable jerks who will find no happiness in life and are very shallow. Could we be the jerks for criticizing her this way? Reread your last paragraph. Chrissy nailed it. You're the jerk. Apparently, it never occurred to her that maybe Chrissy didn't want to be married at 23. Chrissy may have had every intention to wait till she was 30 to get married either way. She just found her person pretty young, so she was happy to hang with them until the time when they would have been ready for marriage. But I think OP is probably just jealous. She says she's been with her partner for 4 years and they're going to get engaged eventually, but clearly it's not in her immediate future. So OP may very well be looking at 7 years of dating before an engagement herself. Except where Chrissy was younger and fine with that, I think OP realizes she's older and so feels the need to criticize long periods of dating because she's afraid she'll end up like Chrissy, but older. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Chrissy? Please let us know. Before insulting someone's life or their choices they've made, always ask yourself if it's actually going to help anyone in any way, shape, or form. If the answer's no, just keep your mouth shut. Am I the jerk for telling my mom to leave my house after she kept moving the furniture? My wife is OCD. She's on medication, but there are still things that she's extremely particular about. One part of this is where she puts things. She has certain things in specific places. She has the silverware in a certain drawer, the coffee table pressed to the side of the wall, the coffee maker below the coffee cups. She also works from home and is often in meetings. This is how she operates and generally gets through the day. There's a specific place for everything and for a reason, and it's convenient. Frankly, I think these spots are where most people keep their things. When she's in a meeting or talking to people, she'll keep her earpiece in, go make coffee as they are talking, and so forth. So she's usually rushing. Honestly, I don't even know if this is even a part of OCD or just a matter of her everyday routine that throws her off when it's not there. Mom was coming down to New Jersey where I live, visiting me and other siblings. She was staying with us, and usually this isn't an issue, but Mom continues to move things around the house. Like the things I've mentioned. She moved the coffee maker and the cups apart so they're hanging where there are hooks on the wall, the opposite way of the coffee maker. She moved the coffee table to the center of the room. She rearranged all of the plates and cups. She's putting my wife's pens, paper, notebooks, laptop, all in her office in different places, so my wife has to rummage around to find them. Mom keeps closing the blinds, making it dark and gloomy in the house. This gets my wife overwhelmed and has a bigger impact than how simple it seems, and her sidetracked from work because now she has to find everything and put it back. This has been happening for the past 3 days. Each time Mom does it, I tell her to put it back, then she gets mad at me, saying this is where everything should be, and she's just helping us. I stayed firm and told her to put it back, which she does, but once I leave, it's back to where I told her not to put it. It's starting to irritate me, and my wife is getting really frustrated with this. I don't think she or I can handle this for 2 weeks. Today, Mom moved my wife's office desk from the other side of the room, away from all the cabinets she has stored for her work things. This was it. I profusely told her to move it back, and why. I told her that she's going to have to stay with my sister or find a hotel. She got really mad at me and my wife, and told me she can't believe we're so selfish to not appreciate her help, then said if she's not appreciated, she'll leave. She left, but now I'm getting blasted from my sister and my brother, saying I was a jerk for kicking her out, and this is just how she shows affection. I don't think I'm a jerk. We opened our home to her, which is already kind of a lot. It's our home. We should feel comfortable in our home, and our setup was comfortable for both of us. Not the jerk. Even if your wife didn't have OCD, it would be a darn move to do any of that. Like, if it were just that she did the washing up and didn't know where something goes and put it in the wrong spot, that would be fine. But she's deliberately rearranging things, and that's not okay. The fact that she's deliberately rearranging things, even after being explicitly told not to, is a huge sign of disrespect, whether OP's wife has OCD or not. Who goes into someone else's house and moves their home office around? OP's mom had no reason whatsoever to be in wife's office at all, let alone moving wife's office around, except to either exert control over space that isn't hers to control or cause trouble. Not the jerk, but OP's mom sounds like a massively controlling jerk. Well, what do you think? Is mother-in-law a jerk or not? Please let us know. People who touch your things after you tell them not to are the worst. I bet you OP siblings are mad now because mom's over there messing with their stuff. Am I the jerk for leaving my sister and her husband in the rain? My girlfriend, Emily, is a food content creator. She loves what she does, and her food is always tasty. If she decided to open a restaurant, she would always be fully booked. She does not do professional catering, but she likes to prepare food for friends and family. A little context. A few weeks ago, my sister, Paige, wanted to host a dinner party for her friends and family, 8 guests. She asked Emily to help her design an elaborate course menu. Eventually, this turned into Paige hiring Emily for a night to prepare and cook all the meals. Paige paid half of the agreed amount and promised to pay the remaining balance by a certain date. Emily spent days prepping, cooking, cleaning, etc. to make sure the dinner was perfect. She spent the entire day at their house prepping, and she also helped Paige clean the house in preparation for the guests. At first, she says that she was overwhelmed, but nothing she couldn't handle. She was alone working in the kitchen. The guests arrived almost 2 hours earlier than Emily was expecting. According to Emily, my brother-in-law, sister's husband, started to brag about their new exotic maid that they had hired because of this event. He went on, mentioning how hard it was to understand their maid because of her accent. My sister lives in an open-plan style house, so Emily could hear all of these things in the kitchen. Emily was incredibly uncomfortable the entire time. As soon as she finished, she left. I asked Paige and my brother-in-law to apologize, but they refused. To make it worse, Paige has not paid Emily the rest of the promised money. Every time we call, text, or email, etc., she straight up ignores us. I assumed that they had blocked us on all social media, messages, etc. It's gross and I'm so upset with them. A couple of days ago, Emily posted a new food-related video. It was very good and looked tasty. About 2 hours later, my sister and her husband are outside my door in the pouring rain asking to come in. I was confused, but I assumed that maybe this was their way of apologizing. I did not let them in. I just opened the door a little bit. I was wrong. Paige mentioned how she saw Emily's post and wanted to come try it for herself. I was stunned. Not only was I disappointed in them for not apologizing or paying Emily, I was shocked by the ridiculousness of their thought process, that they would show up for free food like nothing had happened, ignoring the fact that Emily doesn't upload her content on the same day she makes it. I asked Paige or my brother-in-law to apologize, and when it was clear that they were making excuses, I said goodbye and shut the door in their face. They sat outside with no umbrella or a rain jacket for almost an hour, calling our names and spamming our doorbell. I got a call from my brother-in-law demanding me to apologize because I got Paige sick. Emily thinks I may have been a bit too petty. Not the jerk. This is what I like to call mess around and find out. They were rude the whole way through. You should also take them to small claims court where they will be forced to pay up the remainder of what's owed, though you may want to go a legal subreddit or lawyer to see what you can do. Not the jerk. You didn't leave them in the rain. They chose to stay in the rain to yell at you. They were perfectly able to leave and get out of the rain. They cannot blame you for their choices. As for Emily's payment, it might be necessary to take them to small claims court. That is, if she thinks it's worth it. The big guy and the bigger bouncer. Back about 13 to 14 years ago, I was working as a bouncer at a club in a rough area of Toronto. Now, the job was a well-paying gig, especially for a university student my size. Gave me an advantage, and it was better than having to work at McDonald's. Now, as I said, I'm a big guy, but the other bouncer, Dale, he was a huge guy. I'm 6'3" with a bug build. That man was at least 6'10". His arms were the size of my legs, the epitome of a huge guy. It was a Saturday night, and a group of 5 or 6 people started making trouble. Dale and I were on floor duty, and in the club we always work in pairs. I went over to the table to give them a warning that it's time to settle down or get out from there. It just escalated to them saying, ain't no way they're doing crap. Mixed with booze and an attitude and the high testosterone environment, one of the guys had to be a big man and cause some crap. Now at this point, I was not conscious for what exactly went down, but one of the bigger guys around my size cracked me in the head with a beer bottle and I went down. Now Dale, being the rough guy that he was, he saw this happen and rushed over. I don't know what exactly took place in the time I was on the floor till I came back, but when I did, I stood up to the troublemakers screaming, "Let him go! You're hurting him!" So Dale had the guy who cracked me in the head in the judo hold. Now at this point, they're screaming, please just let him go." The bar staff hand already called the cops, but Dale thought it was enough that it was time to give them what they wanted. Again, Dale was a big guy. Dale did exactly what they wanted to the letter. The man let him out of the hold, but grabbed him by the shirt, lifted the guy up, and threw the man at his buddies. Dale pointed at them and said, "You guys aren't going to move. Do you understand me?" Looked over at me and said, "Hey, little Mikey, you good?" The cops came and got that one jerk booked. But yeah, Dale was and still is a huge guy. Am I the jerk for refusing to go on a family vacation unless my mom lets my boyfriend come? I, 22 female, am one of 7 kids. I'm the youngest, and all of my siblings are over 10 years older than me. They are all married, but only one of them has kids. My dad left when I was 7, and none of us have heard from him since. We didn't go on any family vacations after he left because my mom was too anxious, and then by the time she wasn't, my siblings all had their own lives. My mom decided last year that she wanted to go on a huge family vacation. It's out of the country and for 15 days. All of my siblings are going to be there along with their partners. The vacation is next week. I've been with my boyfriend now for about 6 months, and I thought it was a given that my mom would pay for my boyfriend to come too. When I mentioned it to her, she laughed, thinking I was joking. She said it's a family vacation where all of us are going to be spending actual time together for the first time in a long time, and she doesn't want to pay for someone she barely knows to be there. I said this was unfair, and I told her I refused to go unless she would let him come. She's upset, and my siblings are all saying that I'm a jerk, but I just don't think it's fair when all of my siblings' partners are going. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Let's break this down. 1. This is a big deal 2-week vacation for the entire family, which has not gone on a vacation like this in at least 15 years. 2. Your mom is paying for everyone. 3. Your mother really wants to do this. She wants to gather her 7 kids together and have a fun experience as a family. 4. It's a week away, and you're only now discussing the boyfriend coming? How long ago was all this planned? Did you think the boyfriend of less than 6 months was invited on the all expenses paid by mom family vacation? 5. Your mom has been the only parent that was there for you from the time you were 7. She had to weather all the issues of her husband abandoning all of you, including those who are now adults. Is there no part of you that's okay with just letting her have this because of everything that she's done for you? Just not throw a fit about something and be the person who upsets everyone at the family vacation? 6. There are times in life where you gotta balance what you want against what it is going to cost. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her mom? Please let us know. No tip on a $300 bill. Reason? Because they're a non-profit. I'm sitting here on my break and I just want to know if this is actually a thing because I'm kind of salty. I work at a small poke bowl / sushi place that's similar to Chipotle in that it's a prep and go. Dine in is optional. The bowls do take quite a bit of time though, since customers build their own. Same thing if they want sushi rolls. Anyway, it's 12:30ish and this group of around 20 comes in. I'm thinking, wow, since it's our usual lunch rush, plus this massive group, and it was a little overwhelming to say the least. This lady says she's going to pay me for her whole group, and it takes maybe 30 minutes to get through everyone. While ringing her up, I ask what the group is about, and she says it's some sort of summer camp. The total came out to just over $300, and when I flip to the tip screen, she just looks at me and goes, "Sorry, I'm not allowed to tip since we're a non-profit organization. You guys did a great job though." It was a little disappointing to run around taking and making orders for everyone just to be told they couldn't tip because they were a non-profit. They even said they'd probably be coming back for the duration of their camp, which I'm not looking forward to if it's going to be all this stress and no reward. So tell me, is this some kind of rule for company budgeting? Am I the jerk or are they? Edit. To clarify, this is not a typical dine-in restaurant, and I included this earlier because I know there's a difference when it comes to expecting tips. I don't have an issue with regular customers not tipping, although it is appreciated and I try to make conversation and make sure that they're taken care of to earn it. I'm annoyed that a company-funded party of 20 came in, assuming this is a larger nonprofit with money, and left nothing. I was also wondering if my annoyance was justified or if she was telling the truth about not being allowed to. To be honest though, I would have been happy with $10. Also, I'm a girl, since some of the people in the comments think I'm a guy. I work for a nonprofit. We are allowed to tip. I've done a fair share of delivery work. It's pretty normal for people in some kind of secretarial position to claim that they don't have authority to provide a tip. I tend to view this as a BS excuse, of course. They're clearly allowed to pay for the incurred expense, and the tip should be viewed as part of the expense. I'm sure there are genuinely some bosses and higher-ups that will notice and kick up a fuss that a signer included a basic tip, but it happens far too commonly for that to be the majority case in my opinion. I do notice that a lot of people who are in positions that are generally viewed as socially good or altruistic, whether that's charity work, nurses, teachers, etc., are very bad tippers or they don't tip at all. And there's a lot of entitlement and a sense that they don't have to because everyone knows they're good people already. I haven't done much serving work, but I'm reminded of how many server friends I've known that don't like serving church groups for that same reason. And my main job now is teaching, and I definitely notice a big self-righteous and smug note in a sizable number of coworkers. Of course, usually whenever I bring this up on Reddit, I get downvoted because, how dare you badmouth these people, they're our heroes, etc. I used to work with city government. We couldn't get reimbursed for more than 10% tip. That was 15 years ago. It probably hasn't changed. I work for a nonprofit now. We can tip, just within reason, but I suppose her specific organization could set up rules for that sort of purchase. When I was a server many moons ago, I had the exact same situation. I saw the absence of gratuity when cleaning the table and found the host on our way out.
She stated the exact same thing as did your guests. My reply in front of the group was, "You may be nonprofit, but I'm certainly not. Do you not pay your employees who provide a service to you?" She turned as red as the lobster her friend ate, and I managed $20 out of the cheap jerk. Not nearly an appropriate gratuity, but the satisfaction was priceless. Do you leave tips? And if so, how much do you usually leave? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's friends that I make twice what he does? I'm in a relationship with a guy who also works in tech. He makes $68,000 a year and I make $130,000. I'm a mechanical engineer at a robotics startup. He works at a more stable job doing programming at a large company. He brought me to meet his friends at a party and they asked me about myself. His friends mostly work in tech too, and they talked about themselves in terms of their jobs. I told them I'm a hiker, I do archery, I love road trips and camping and riding dirt bikes, etc. Basically talking about my hobbies because work is just a way to get paid to do the crap I love. It's not how I define myself, and it doesn't come to mind when someone wants me to tell them about myself. One of his friends asked me about work, and I said, "Oh gosh, I don't want to talk about work at a party. Spent my whole day sweating in 95-degree heat trying to replace this busted motor just to find the replacement part was also broken." I wasn't lying or trying to downplay that I have a good job. That really is how I spent my day, and I wasn't in the mood to talk shop at a party. Some other conversations came up casually that probably also made me seem poor. Like me saying that car dealership repairs were a ripoff, and telling my boyfriend that my childhood neighbor's trailer caught on fire and I was gonna go visit and help her out. I wasn't doing it on purpose, I was literally just talking about my life, but I guess I gave the impression that I was poor. It got later into the night and everyone was drinking, and some of his friends, not close ones though, were making jokes about me being a gold digger and being ready to jump to a rich guy. Honestly, they don't even know me, and they seemed to just assume that I was a gold digger. He didn't say anything. I felt hurt that he didn't say anything. I got irritated with his friends and I asked, "Now, why the heck would you say that when I make twice what he does?" His friends went quiet for a second and I continued saying, "There ain't no gold to dig here. Not with him or anyone at this party. So do y'all think I'm cheap or do y'all think I'm stupid?" My boyfriend wanted to leave the party shortly after, and he was pretty upset with me for telling everyone I make twice what he does. I said I would have held my tongue if he had checked his friends himself, but he didn't say anything, so I wasn't about to let them talk to me like that. He said it was humiliating, and now everyone thinks I'm a jerk. And I said, "At least they know I'm a rich jerk." He was angry I embarrassed him when I spoke up. I was angry I had to say anything at all, because his friends were talking crap, so it should be on him to check them. Stuff is still tense. Am I the jerk for explaining why I'm not a gold digger? Not the jerk. His friends sound like those dudes that whine that they can't get girlfriends, think that they deserve supermodels, but then are complete jerks. Boyfriend got his ego bruised that you let it be known you out-earn him. Am I the jerk for telling my retired military father what I said? I'm 32, male, and my family is what I would consider generational military. We have ancestors that fought in World War I and beyond. I grew up being moved from place to place, going long stretches without seeing my father, and I hated it. Anytime I'd say I missed my dad or I wished I could see him more, I was quickly told to be quiet and be proud of my dad for being a hero. I once was upset we had to move because I was finally making friends and was told to not be selfish. I'm one of 4 kids. My brother and sisters all enlisted at 18. I chose not to, and while I'm not the only person in my extended family to do so, I knew it was disappointing. Originally, I chose not to enlist just because I didn't want to be in the military. However, over time, after learning more about it, I find the concept just wrong. I've never told my family this. I went to college, got my dream job, and eventually married my wife. We have 2 beautiful daughters. Because of our own upbringing, I do my best to be at every recital, school concert, soccer game, etc. I help my eldest with her homework, have special days with each of them separately, and then as family. Recently, I had the opportunity for a promotion that would require traveling 2 weeks out of the month. My wife and I briefly considered it before deciding that it just wasn't worth it in the long run. We do good financially, and the extra money wouldn't be worth her raising our kids alone half the month and me missing out on so much. The promotion came up during a family party. My father is now retired and he was there. When he heard me mention it, he asked why I would want to pass it up.
I said I don't want to miss out on my girls' childhoods and have them feel like I abandoned them. My dad's chest puffed out, and he said I was attacking him. I was confused, and he said I had never been quiet about being unhappy as a military kid. He went on a rant about him not being an absent dad. I was an ungrateful brat, not patriotic, telling me to move to Canada if I didn't like it here. I said I don't want to do that. I just hated growing up without a physically present father. He said he was fighting for our country. I said that was a choice, and I'm allowed to not agree with it. My wife, kids, and I left shortly after. My wife agrees with my point, but said I was a jerk for wording my reasons for not taking the promotion like I did. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your dad's insecure, childish response says it all. Not the jerk. Any decent dad would have said, I know me being gone so much caused you a lot of pain and it makes me sad. I made the best decision I could about my career and my responsibility, but I am aware that it had some major drawbacks. I'm glad you get to be a father who gets to be around for your kids since it's important to you. Not the jerk. I'm sorry your childhood was sacrificed for his false beliefs. I can see why your dad believes what he does if he's generational military. He was spoon-fed the patriotism stuff from birth. But don't make that your problem. You do you and raise your family the way you like. Good for you. Not the jerk. You are being a great father by putting your kids' lives first. Being present in their upbringing will forever be better than any job promotion. Your father got defensive because he knew you were right. Don't listen to him. You're doing the right thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to put your kids first, and you are not an ungrateful brat. It's not your fault he chose war over his son. Not the jerk. Gosh, I can't stand military guys. They never make good fathers or husbands, and they wonder why their wives don't stick around. These guys expect to be treated like royalty when the truth is we don't need them at all. This is why I never thank anyone for their service. It's like, oh, you decided to play soldier so you can live off my tax dollars? And you expect me to worship the ground you walk on? No thanks, Sarge. I learned the hard way to never date military guys. It's a huge red flag that he has zero intelligence and isn't going anywhere in life. If you really want to fight for us, stand up for those of us who are legit ostracized like myself. Go to rally marches and demonstrations. Donate money to get the right people elected who will make a difference in this broken system we live in. Playing soldier and being a bad person like most of them do won't solve a thing. Hey Reddit boy, weren't you in the army? What do you think of that last commenter? No comment, Karen. No comment. Am I the jerk for expecting my girlfriend to share her food before it gets cold? I know this may seem like a dumb argument to ask about, but I am genuinely curious if I am actually the jerk about this. My girlfriend, May, who's 22, and I, 22, have been dating for 2 years now. I just want to start off by saying my girlfriend is very small and tends to not eat very big portions. I have rarely ever seen her complete a meal by herself, maybe on 1 or 2 occasions out of the 2 years and thousands of meals we've had together. She isn't per se selfish with her food, but she doesn't like to share with me all the time, which I just kind of find rather annoying considering she does not finish all of her food. For example, if we're out to eat, usually I will reach my hand over and try to sample a bite while her food is hot and fresh because I want to taste. She will sometimes smack my hand away and tell me to wait. Then an argument always ensues because she thinks I should give her the courtesy of at least trying to finish her meal before I touch it, which is annoying to me because I know she won't finish it and she knows I like my food scalding hot. I usually won't even eat if it's room temperature. The reason I'm asking if I'm the jerk here is that this weekend we went to a fair in our town and she got a basket of 3 fried Oreos. And when she brought it over, I took one and she got really upset saying, "You know I wait for these all year around and I wanted to eat all of them," which was probably a lie, but she seemed kind of upset for the rest of the night about it. I'm pretty sure I'm not the jerk, but I wanted to ask for strangers' opinions so I can settle this debate with her once and for all. Am I the jerk? Edit. Okay, reading all of these comments has made me realize that I'm not only the jerk, but I am the biggest jerk in the world. Growing up, I was very poor and was always taught to scarf my food down while it was good, aka while it was hot. I guess that translated into me being an adult, and I'm now wreaking havoc on the person I love the most. I thought by eating her food and showing her it was enjoyable would help her recovery, and through comments from all of you, I realized that I was severely wrong. I don't even know how I'm going to apologize to her, but I'm going to start by not taking her food and working on my issues. I'm going to take her to the fair and buy her all the fried Oreos she wants.
Thank you all for making me realize just how stupid I was being. It's scary to even think that had I not made what I thought was a silly post over a small debate, I would have kept up my behavior without even knowing until it was too late. Update. We talked. I don't want to go in depth because I don't want to expose a private conversation, but I apologized and we had a long conversation. She said she was only willing to continue if I go to therapy, which I am. She appreciated the apology, and now I'm going to take her out for dinner tonight. You're the jerk, because you didn't even ask. What on earth? I also never finish my meals, but my husband waits for me to offer, or he asks. Common courtesy. You also already know this bothers her, so why do you keep doing it? You're the jerk. All I could hear when I read this was, Joey doesn't share food. I'm the same. It's really rude to just grab at someone's plate, especially when you know full well she doesn't want you to. Why do you think your desire for her food outweighs what she wants? The constant justifications from the OP indicate that he clearly doesn't think he's done anything wrong and is not learning anything from this thread, which has been you're the jerk all the way. She knows I like my food scalding hot, except it's not your food, is it? No, it's not. Leave her alone. You sound like a toddler or a golden retriever that was given the gift of speech. You are not entitled to her food and definitely not on your own terms, you weirdo. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. Nobody cares that you like your food scalding hot. You can heat up her leftovers when she's done eating. The absolute nerve to eat off another person's plate even after being told no. Are you human or are you a hyena? Not the jerk. My husband grabs food off my plate all the time. I couldn't care less. Why? Because A, he knows I'm done with it and not planning to eat it anymore. And B, he's the one who pays for it. My heart goes out to you younger guys around my son's age. He's had several girlfriends and they always just seem so mean. It's like they have a chip on their shoulder about everything. Maybe they were spoiled growing up. I ask him if he's attracted to that kind of an attitude, and he tells me, no, Mom, but they're all like that now. Here's my advice to you, the same thing I tell my son. Stop trying to force a relationship with someone who isn't sweet. Just be patient, and one day the Lord will bring her into your life, and you'll have a sweet girlfriend who won't flip out on you for eating her leftovers.
If you tried taking anything off my plate, Reddit boy, you'd need some new fingers.
Dealing with an entitled neighbor. Just flipping through a few stories and reading about entitled drivers getting their just desserts. This made me think back to my days as a paramedic. We got a call to a house where there was a bariatric patient who had fallen. The patient was morbidly obese and weighed around 30 stone, 420 pounds. This story isn't really about them though. There are many reasons people get to this size, and I've never judged, only helped. No, the problem here was a really arrogant neighbor we had come across before, and boy was this chap a judgmental moron. Our patient had a car and had a disabled parking permit. They also had a council-designated disabled parking spot outside their home, which the neighbor kept parking in. There had been a number of letters from the council regarding this and a number of parking fines just served to annoy this chap even more. On the day of this story, I took the call that the patient had fallen and we went to the house. Sure enough, the neighbor was not only parked in the disabled spot, but had parked his second car blocking access to the patient's driveway. I assessed the patient and suspected they had a broken hip, so needed to go in. I sent my colleague around to the neighbor to ask them to move the cars, and when they came back, I was told the neighbor had just told my colleague to do one. No problem. Time to get the message home. I radioed through to our control center and asked for the fire service and police. We needed the fire service to help lift the guy and the police to do a little parking control. The fire station were the first to arrive, and I spoke to the crew commander to let them know what the situation was. A fireman went to the house to ask the neighbor to move the car and was told the same thing as my colleague. The message was relayed back, and the watch commander just asked me one question. Is the patient's life at risk? I knew exactly where this was going, and it was time our thoughtless neighbor got the message. My answer was, yes, there's equipment I need to get into the house, and the driveway is blocked, preventing me from doing so. The watch commander told the fire truck driver to move those vehicles. It was really satisfying to see both vehicles being pushed down the road by the fire service, and the look on the neighbor's face as he came out spitting and screaming was well worth seeing. His complaints to the police fell on deaf ears. They were well aware of his history of obstruction, and my clinical assessment that the patient's life was in danger was more than enough justification for the vehicles to be moved. I doubt it made our patient's life any easier, and sadly they passed a few months later without leaving the hospital, but it really did bring a smile to their face as we wheeled them out. Am I the jerk for laughing in my stepmom's face and then kicking my dad out? I'm 21, male. My parents weren't ready for kids when they had me. My uncle and aunt, my uncle is my grandma's youngest brother on my dad's side, wanted kids, so me coming along was pretty much perfect for them. My uncle and aunt are farmers, and I live and work on the farm with them and my girlfriend. My mom and dad used to visit, but stopped when I was around 8 because my dad met his now wife, and my mom started dating her boyfriend, and I haven't seen them since until my 21st birthday, and that was the last time I saw my dad until today. I don't actually call my dad, Dad. I call Uncle Dad, or Pop, and my aunt, Mom. I just wrote it that way I did so it wouldn't get confusing, and so I could stay under the character limit. My aunt, stepmom, and stepsister, who's 13, came over today. I was in the stable with my horse. I was brushing her and talking to her. My stepmom brought my stepsister to the stable and pet some of the other horses. After a bit, my stepmom pulled me aside and asked me to stop talking to my horse because she thought only freaks talk to animals, and she didn't want my stepsister to take after me. I laughed in her face at that, then realized she was serious. I told her I wasn't going to stop talking to my horse. After my girlfriend, that horse is my best friend and I like to talk to her. She got mad and grabbed my stepsister and stormed away. A little later, I was telling my girlfriend about what my stepmom said and my dad walked over. He started to scold me for disrespecting his wife. I said, I only said I wouldn't stop talking to my horse. What's the big deal? And he said, you laughed in her face. I know your aunt and uncle didn't raise you properly. That upset me and my girlfriend could see it in my face. She tried to de-escalate, but my dad kept talking over her. That's when I snapped. I said, you weren't there for 13 years. You were barely around to begin with. You know nothing about my lifestyle and what me being raised properly looks like. At this point, my aunt, uncle, stepmom, and stepsister heard the commotion and came out. My dad said, well, you still disrespected my wife. And I said, she called me a freak, and I'm the one being disrespectful? He said, almost yelling, you have to respect your elders. At this point, I was done arguing, so I told him to leave. He tried to argue, but all he got out was, before I cut him off and said, leaving. He was getting really mad, but my uncle came to my defense and they eventually left, but my stepmom screamed that I was a jerk before they left. Am I the jerk for laughing in my stepmom's face, then kicking my dad out? Not the jerk. Your stepmother sounds like an absolutely ridiculous human. It's disappointing that your father defended her. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my seat on an airplane? I, 15, female, was flying for the first time to Florida. Due to some childhood issues, I get bad anxiety when being yelled at for something that I can't control. I arrived at the airport, and being a minor flying for the first time, my mom was able to walk me all the way to the gate. She told them I was a minor and that this was my first time flying, so that it would help lessen the anxiety I had of having to be on the plane by myself. When it was finally my turn to board the plane, the flight attendant, to help ease my anxiety, introduced me to the pilots and I was able to see in a little bit. The flight attendant took me to my seat. I made sure to book and pay for a window seat so I can look out the window and also not have to keep getting up whenever anyone had to use the bathroom. There was some girl in my seat and the flight attendant kindly told her that she was in the wrong seat and that she had to sit in the seat that was on her ticket. She was not happy and her boyfriend said I could just sit in the aisle seat. The flight attendant knew why I wanted a window seat and about the anxiety, as my mom told them before I boarded, so the flight attendant told the woman she had to move. I was able to sit in my seat, but once the flight attendant left, they both started losing it on me and commenting about how I ruined their flight. My anxiety was getting really bad. It felt like I couldn't breathe and I wanted to get off the plane. I stood up and walked up towards the front as it was a small plane. The flight attendant asked me what was wrong as I was crying now. I was nervous and scared and didn't say anything. The only thing I said was, I want to get off of the plane. Another flight attendant went over to my original seat to see what had happened, and of course, the couple said nothing happened, but the man behind me who heard them spoke up and told them what had happened. Some man at the front of the plane told me to switch seats since we both had a window seat, and he sat in my seat so that the couple couldn't have the window seat, and I got his window seat. The rest of the flight went okay, besides I was extremely scared of the takeoff and landing and the turbulence.
When I told my family, some of them said I should have just sat in the aisle instead of making a big deal, or once I sat down, I shouldn't have gotten up and just ignored their comments. It's not like they got kicked off the flight or anything, but I do feel like I might be the jerk and that I could have handled it a little bit differently. Not the jerk. Kudos to the man behind you for helping you out, and for the kind man who changed seats with you so that you can have a window seat. Your family should be more sympathetic though, knowing about your anxiety. Am I the jerk for not paying for my son's friend's childcare? My husband and I employ a nanny, Poppy, for our 2- and 6-year-old. In her contract, Poppy states that she'll host the occasional playdate whilst on the clock for the same rate, $28 an hour, but only one extra kid at a time and for no more than 3 hours. It also can't be a consistent thing, or she'll require to be paid a separate rate for that kid. We are careful to follow said policy, along with the rest, as we love her and we want to keep her on. Our 6-year-old has a friend, James. He's come over for a few playdates during the school year. He has a single mom that works crazy hours, so a few times this summer, we've paid Poppy more to watch all 3 kids. It amounts to $30 an hour, which quickly adds up. But it was worth the investment occasionally so Nanny could focus on the toddler while James and our son played. Recently, James' mom approached us and said that her summer care fell through. She asked if Poppy could watch him 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. We asked, and she said this was a nanny share situation. We'd have to each pay 2/3 of her salary, which rounded up is $20 an hour per family, $800 a week per family. This would be a better deal for us anyway, so we were down. We told James' mom, and she said there was no way she could afford that. We offered to pay $30, leaving her to pay $400 a week. She said at that point it would be a better deal to just stay home. She asked why we can't pay all of it to help her out. We offered alternatives, sending her links to summer programs that care for school-aged kids on a sliding scale. She said that most of them are filled and that the 2 that aren't are also too expensive. It would be an extra $480 a week to do this, and while we can't afford it, it just doesn't seem financially responsible, nor is it our responsibility to pay for this kid's care. We're worried about what this will do in the long run. We ultimately told James' mom no. She started crying and said she doesn't know what to do. She can't bring him to work with her and can't afford care. She said we were being selfish with our money. Are we being jerks? Not the jerk. You're not responsible for paying for someone else's childcare, whether you can afford it or not. 86-cent tip. Now you might be thinking, oh no, that's really bad. Yeah, I would have thought so too, but I want to share why I'm not mad that I got an 86-cent tip. I only was scheduled 1 day this week, and when I went in for my shift, I got a table fairly quickly. It was just a one-top, a little older lady. She kind of reminded me of the iguana assistant from the movie Sing, but not in a bad way. She was one of the sweetest customers I've had in such a long time, very polite, wasn't rude at all, and was really nice to me in general. Now, my restaurant uses the Presto systems to pay. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a table tablet thing that your table pays on. They can also play games and stuff too. Basically, these things are a real pain, especially for the older crowd. I don't know why they thought this customer base was the best for upgraded payment systems, but whatever. So the lady pays, and she tells me she accidentally forgot to tip, but she wanted to tip me because she really enjoyed my service. Her bill was about $50. Now, I was going to find my manager to pull back her receipt. We need manager's cards for certain things on the computers. But when I walked in the office, the bartender was filling out an incident report. So I backed out slowly and went back to the lady. I couldn't have printed the receipt to sign either because there's no option for that after it's printed after using the Presto. I just figured I would ring in something cheap and she could leave a tip on that. So that's what I did. Rang in something that was like $3. She paid for it and said she was gonna leave 20%. I didn't think about it until I looked at the notification for how much I got tipped. It was only 86 cents. And honestly, I just kind of laughed. I wasn't upset about it. The lady really did try to tip me 20% of her original bill, but it was just a weird situation. It really was the thought that counted, to be honest. Honestly, if it was any other table, I probably would have been upset. Accidents happen. My husband is a doctor. I deserve to be seen now. Come here, you fine people, and listen to the story of another Karen in the emergency room. I worked the day shift today. In Germany, we work 5 8-hour shifts a week and have 2 days off, not like the 12-hour shifts which our friends in the US are pulling. We have a 3-shift system, morning, day, and night.
My day shift starts at 11:30 a.m. and ends at 8 p.m. regularly, but I work mostly overtime since lockdown. It was a really cool shift today. I worked with my work wife, my work boyfriend, and other nurses I'm cool with. So, yay. Patients were dripping in slowly. Nothing major. A broken leg, a bee sting, an allergic reaction, and a dog bite. Normal stuff. But then I felt a disturbance in the force. The room temperature dropped like 5 degrees downwards. All the dogs in a 3-mile radius started howling. Something unholy set foot in the hospital. A monster every service and retail worker fears. The mortal enemy of every manager. A mom bee. A middle-aged, middle to upper class lady. A Karen with her kid. Like the Sith, there are always two of them. A master and a student. I sat at the front desk and did some desk work, scheduling some x-rays and MRIs, handling with some insurance IDs and so on. Clearing throat. "Excuse me?" The battle cry of the Karen. In front of me stood a middle-aged lady, fake pink nails, and clutching the wrist of her kid. The girl pressed a piece of paper on her forehead, probably bumped her head and maybe needed some stitches. Me. "How can I help you?" Karen. "My princess bumped her head. She needs help. She may have a concussion." Me. "How are you feeling, sweetie?" Kid. "I'm fine, but my head hurts." Me. Coming around the front counter. "Did she faint?" Karen. No. "Did she throw up?" "No." "Okay, sweetie, can I have a quick look at it?" She showed me her forehead. She had a laceration and probably needed some stitches. I then checked her eyes with a little light. I was sure she had not had a concussion. Me. "Okay, please fill out these forms and the next available doctor will look at your daughter." Karen. "What? My kid needs medical attention now. My husband is a surgeon here, so get going." Me. Massaging my nose in a very annoyed way. "Please fill out these forms and sit down and wait, miss. All our doctors are busy with patients right now." Karen. "Don't you listen, boy?" Boy? "Lady, I'm 24 years old." "My husband is a surgeon. He's on good terms with the management, so watch your mouth." Me. Looked her dead in the eyes. "Take the forms, fill them out, sit down, and the next doctor will have a look at your daughter's head." She probably noticed that I didn't take her crap. I'm working the ER since I finished nursing school. I developed really thick skin. I got yelled at, spit at, punched, and shoved, and got thrown at with stuff like cans. They waited maybe half an hour until the ER doctor could look at the kid. And what a surprise, no concussion. Just 3 stitches on the forehead. "And, does she have a concussion?" I asked with my best grin when she passed the front desk again. She just huffed and left the ER. And now the best part. Near the end of the shift, a surgeon came into the ER. He asked especially for me and apologized for his wife's behavior. He will tear her a new one when he gets home today. I told the doctor, "No problem. I've seen worse. Just talk to your wife and tell your kid I hope she gets well soon." The kid was quiet the whole time and was a really sweet kiddo. God, I hope she doesn't end up like her mother. I hope the Karens go out with the baby boomers like the dinosaurs did with the comet. My ex is trying to force me to adopt her son. My wife and I separated about a year ago after 6 years of marriage, but we are not legally divorced yet. We have 2 kids together who are 4 and 2. We both had previous marriages and had kids from those marriages. My kids, who are 12 and 10, have always had a good relationship with their mother, but my stepson, who's 11, hasn't seen his biological father in years. We started seriously discussing the divorce after deciding that it is basically impossible for us to reconcile. We are happy to split custody of our kids and are committed to ensuring that they grow up feeling safe and loved and as stable as possible. But my wife also wants me to commit to having a parental relationship with my stepson because he does not have any other father figures in his life. I refused. I have nothing against the kid personally, but we've both always acknowledged that I wasn't his father. He never called me dad, and I never asked him to. And to share custody of him like I do my biological kids, it sounds insane to me. My wife is upset because her son has started talking to her about how he feels he doesn't have a dad. I understand that must be uncomfortable, but he isn't my son. She needs to talk to his actual father about that. However, when I discussed this with my friends, I got a mixed response. Some agreed with me, some agreed fully with my wife, And some have said I should have committed to that for a limited amount of time for the adjustment period, but it's been almost a year since we've lived together as it is. I don't want to ruin the kid's life, but I don't see why he should be partially my responsibility anymore. Am I the jerk? Edit. To clarify, his father was involved in his life until he was about 6 or 7, and then he disappeared, so I'm not the only father figure he's ever had. Not the jerk. If your soon-to-be ex remarries, your having taken any responsibility for her son would make that really weird. Also, if you take any responsibility for the kid, you may end up paying child support. So sad for the kid, but she would do better to get him involved with big brothers. I don't know. If he's not your son, I get it. But at 11 years old, after 6 years of marriage and 1 of separation, you're realistically the only father figure this kid has ever had. I'm going to say not the jerk because you really aren't obligated to do anything, and it would be a burden for you to accept joint custody. But you've got a chance here to maybe have an ongoing positive influence in this kid's life. Don't pass that up without thinking long and hard about it. Info. Is she expecting child support for your stepson? Or just you still being in his life since you really are the only father figure he knows? I don't think you're the jerk necessarily, but this is a really crappy situation for your stepson, and I imagine could cause some issues between him and his siblings. Also, the kid is 11. Have you considered what he wants? Has anyone asked him? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know. Oh, this is a good one. I can't wait to read the comments we get about it. Am I the jerk for holding my son's college funds hostage? I, 48 male, have a son that graduated this year from high school. We, my wife and I, started his college fund the minute we found out she was pregnant. Since we make good money, in the mid-6 figures, his college fund currently has almost $400,000 in it. We've never told our son what to do with his life. We may have guided his decisions as any good parent should, but since he was still young, we let him make his own decisions. We also never expected academic excellence or forced him into any sports or artistic activities. Now that he's graduated high school, he said that he did not want to go to college. We said as long as he was sure, he could whatever he wanted. He refused trade schools too. He also did not want to work with us in our business. He said that he planned to use his college fund to start a business of his own. I said that I will allow it only if he takes some business management, accounting, and law classes in the nearby community college. I said that I would pay them out of pocket and not from the fund, and then I would expect a well-made business plan before I would give him the money. My wife agrees 100%. But he called us jerks for holding his college fund hostage to make him do what we want. We think we are just doing our best to make sure that his business succeeds. So, am I the jerk? Edit. Oh wow, I logged off 5 minutes ago after posting. Logged back in expecting maybe 100 comments at most. Thank you everyone. I read every single one and decided to answer the most relevant questions here. So the money is in my wife and I's name. Some people said that this discussion should have been had earlier. Well, earlier he said he wanted to take a couple years off to work before going to college. It wasn't until earlier last week that he said he wanted to start a business. Some people also say that he is spoiled and doesn't know how fast that money can disappear, and they are right. I ran away from a bad home at 16, worked for my father-in-law, and got paid under the table until I was able to work legally. The only reason I have the money I do is that I married the boss's daughter, and her father left us a paid-off house and a booming business. He moved to Spain to enjoy retirement. I didn't even get my GED and go to college until I had my kid. So I spoiled my kid like I wish I was spoiled. That is also the reason why I asked. I live in fear of doing something that could make me like my parents, and I know this community is full of younger people who might give me a different perspective. So thank you everyone. I'll probably get downvoted, but not the jerk. You're not holding it hostage for any selfish reason. You're trying to get him to stay on a good track in life. You even offered to pay for the classes out of pocket and not from the college fund. You're trying to support him, but you're also trying to stay realistic and make sure he knows what he's doing so he doesn't make a $400,000 mistake. Not the jerk at all. You and your wife are incredibly generous and have set super reasonable guidelines of how you'd like the money to be spent. Not to mention, if he started a business, there's a good chance it would not even take off. So I think it is incredibly generous for you to support that expense as well, and it seems wise to have a couple caveats in place if he chooses to go that route. I think your son is acting incredibly entitled and doesn't realize how lucky he is to even have a college fund set aside for him.
So many adults are dealing with student debt. He needs some big picture perspective. It sounds to me like you're doing everything right in this scenario, and how awesome that you and your wife had the foresight and the means to contribute to a college fund for your son. Way to go, Dad. Not the jerk. It's not his college fund. It's parents' money saved for his future. Already, you're being very open-minded to not mandate college. The classes seem a bare minimum safety before handing a teenager almost $500,000. I think even after the classes, I would treat the fund as an investor. That only provides part of the funding until the business meets certain benchmarks and then release more funds. Well, who do you think is the jerk? Dad or his son? Please let us know. The audacity of some of these kids from the stories we read, I just can't believe it. Boomer pushed to the edge over 60 cents. The scene. It's a local McDonald's in the summer of 2020. Lockdown is raging, and I'm a young shift manager handing drinks out the drive-thru window. An old man pulls up, and I hand him his cappuccino. Boomer. I didn't order a hot beverage. Me. Yes, you did, sir. This is a cappuccino, unless you wanted the iced coffee frap. Boomer. Yeah, one of those iced cappuccino things. Me. That's Tim Hortons. There's one right across the street if you'd like. Okay, take this warm crab back and give me my money. Me. Unfortunately, I can't take anything back into the restaurant because of the lockdown. I can still refund you though. No, I don't want it. Take it back. Me. Once you've touched it, I can't, sir. I'm sorry. Boomer proceeds to mutter about whatever and peels off. I see him pull around, get out of his car. I find a coworker to cover me while I head over to the front counter. I know this guy is upset, and I'm ready to make his day even harder. He storms in. Give me one of those iced frappuccino things. I don't want this. Me. Sir, I still can't take it back, but there's garbage all around you. He takes a step back, removes the lid, and lifts the cup as if to pour it onto the floor. Fine, I'll pour it all over the floor then. Me. No, you won't. A standoff ensues. I ring up an iced coffee frap and see that his refund is about 60 cents short of the frap. Normally, I would waive that without a second thought for customer satisfaction. It's McDonald's. 60 cents doesn't mean anything to them. But when you threaten to pour your drink out like a kid, you lose that generosity. Me. Look, would you like the frap? I have your refund right here and I can put it toward the frap. Fine. He then proceeds to throw his cappuccino out. Me. Unfortunately, sir, the frap is 60 cents more expensive than what you paid for it. I'm gonna need you to pay the difference because the cappuccino was an honest mistake on our end, considering what you thought you were ordering. What? I don't say anything. He proceeds to yell every word in the book at me while I stare him down unchanged. At this point, I had handled him start to finish. My senior manager jumped in once Boomer yelled loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear and kicked him out without a second thought. The Boomer left without his refund, cappuccino, or frap. It was a good day. Edit. For my non-Canadian friends, the gentleman wanted an iced cap, which is a very distinct beverage from Tim Hortons. The iced frap, or any other variation of iced cappuccino, was not what he was looking for. His day would have been fine if he had taken his money out the window and drove across the street to Tim's. Am I the jerk for calling my girlfriend spoiled after she said she felt like a Neanderthal showering with a bucket? My girlfriend and I are currently in vacation in Croatia. We booked a small villa from Airbnb in which we have been staying this last week. 3 days ago, the water heater stopped working, so we called the owner. A few hours later, he brought a plumber with him. After some investigation, he told us the issue will take a week or more to solve because the plumber told him that the heater was old and needed replacing, so he needs to shop for a new one and then it needs to be installed in a new location. He told us he was going to refund the amount we paid for that day, plus the remaining days of our booking, and if we wanted to stay despite the lack of hot water, he was going to give us a much cheaper rate, 40% off. We were having a great time and enjoying our stay because the villa was nice and the view of the beach was incredible and looked 10 times better than the heavily edited pictures you see on the internet. Not to mention, it was a good deal, especially with the newer rate, so we decided to stay after I told my girlfriend that we could just shower using a bucket. Something to note, my girlfriend has never showered that way. She's American, but still I assume that many people from the US would have at least heard about it despite never trying it. Growing up, I exclusively showered that way at home,
until we could afford a heater and its monthly costs. The only showers I took at home before were with cold water. She was surprised to hear it and thought I was joking at first. The following day, I gave her some tips, and after she was done, I asked her how it went. She said it was more of a chore than a shower. Last evening, she went to take a shower again before getting ready to leave for dinner. After she was done, she started complaining nonstop about showering with a bucket, saying it was very primitive and couldn't believe that some people really did it this way because she felt like a Neanderthal the whole time. I didn't like her comment because it was disrespectful. She apologized, saying her comment wasn't directed towards me, but more towards the people that still shower this way. I told her that her clarification makes her comment 100 times worse because it was insulting to a lot of people. She replied that she didn't know what I wanted her to say because she had already apologized to me and asked if I just was looking for a reason to argue. I told her that the last thing I want to do is argue with a spoiled kid and went downstairs. I waited for her while downstairs and she got ready. When she came downstairs, she informed me that she'll be going to the restaurant alone because she didn't want to embarrass me in case she started acting like a spoiled kid. I tried apologizing for my comment, but she just ignored me and left. It's 3:30 now, and she just came back half an hour ago. I tried talking to her again, but she told me she was tired and just wanted to go to sleep. Edit. Someone told me to add my response to this post. It was a suggestion that she agreed with because we both didn't want to leave the villa because of what I mentioned in the post, and since most of the houses by the beach side were booked and the ones we found available were way too expensive for us to afford. We discussed showering at the public showers by the beach, but they only had cold water, and the fact that they were public, the closest gym was 25 minutes away, so it wasn't viable to waste approximately an hour each day to shower unless we planned our days around it because we don't visit the downtown every day. We both decided to stay after I suggested we could shower with hot water using a bucket. It's not like I'm forcing her to stay or shower with a bucket. We could just find another place to stay at for the remainder of our vacation, even if it's not as nice as the villa. Not the jerk. She was acting like a spoiled kid. She doesn't even realize what a privilege it is to be able to complain about that sort of thing. Lol, it's a fair thing to complain about. I'll agree that for those who are not used to it and did not expect it, it is a fair thing to complain about within reason. Continuing to go on and on about it and then be ignorantly insulting to those who do it out of necessity is not at all within reason, especially considering the person she was there with literally had to do that due to necessity. Everyone sucks here. Her comments were insensitive, but your response was deliberately insulting. Edit. You can all stop lecturing me in the replies. I'm not excusing her comments. She definitely needs to learn to examine her privilege and adjust the way she thinks and speaks. Still doesn't mean her boyfriend gets a free pass for calling her a spoiled kid. Insults don't really promote a teachable moment. Everyone sucks here. I'm American and have never showered with a bucket or ever really heard of people showering that way. It's like one of those abstract things you probably know if you used common sense, but yes, because we're privileged, we don't think about it. Taking that into consideration, if I was staying at a villa on vacation, I would be irritated if I had to use a bucket to shower and would very likely complain about it being more of an inconvenience than a regular shower, because it is. I mean, it's vacation. I would assume she was probably trying to make a comparison to express her frustration and was truly not trying to be insulting to a majority of the world population. Americans are known to be lacking self-awareness. Does that make us jerks? Yes, clearly. Is it intentional? Definitely not always. You seem to take her comment as a personal attack, although it wasn't one, and you threw a personal attack back at her that I'm guessing was to hurt her on purpose. Was she acting privileged? Yes. Did you need to call her a spoiled kid? Probably not. Both jerks, but both with a bit of valid reasons on both sides. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
She needs to check her privilege.
Am I the jerk for making my brother live with my parents? My wife, 27 female, is diabetic, so she obviously keeps sweets in case she needs them. She has a stash in the pantry with a few foods to bring up her blood sugar. My brother, 32 male, is staying with us while he gets a job and works up some money to get another apartment. We have a rather big house. He's sleeping in the guest room, which is on the other side of our bedroom and office. He's staying here for free. He, at the time, didn't have to pay anything. No groceries, no water bill, rent-free, and my wife washes his laundry, which I've told her not to do because he can do it just fine.
He just has to show how much money he's supposed to be making so we know he's actually doing something. We have 3 set rules. Do not leave your mess everywhere. If you are going out late, don't come in loudly, and do not touch my wife's stash. We've told him exactly why, and if he wants something in there, he can write it down on the list of groceries that we have, and we go every Friday. But don't touch that, as it's specifically for her. While I'm at work, my wife texted me asking me to pick up a list of things all from her stash. I was confused because she just got more, but when I got there, everything was gone. All of it. Every candy she had in there had vanished. I asked her where it all went, and she had no idea where it went. Thank God she had some in her purse. I asked my brother, and he started laughing, saying he took them as a prank. Those are meant to be funny, not health-threatening. I told him that he cannot ever do that again, and if that happens, he won't have access to the pantry, and he's incredibly immature. I told him what happens if she doesn't keep her blood sugar up. He apologized to her, we stocked up. A week later, gone again. I went straight to him. He said he ate them. I told him he's now going to be buying his own groceries. He tried to plead and say he just had a sweet tooth, and that's the only thing he could find. I gave him a final warning and said that if this happens again, he won't be welcome here. I suggested he go to my parents' house then. My wife said she will just bring her stash into our room. We were good for about a month until my wife texted me again while at work, understandably upset, and again, he took her whole thing. This time, I told him he's going to have to stay with our parents. Our parents welcomed him. However, now he's told our whole family, and they are all blasting me on social media, even on Reddit, about how much of a horrible brother I am for kicking him out, and I could have just put a lock on my bedroom. I love my brother, I want him to succeed, but I can't keep helping him when he's literally making our home unsafe. I don't see why I have to child-proof my house from a 32-year-old man. I gave him 3 strikes. However, these messages are getting to my head. Was I being the jerk here? Not the jerk. Put a lock on your room? In your own house? Forget that. Your family is insane. Your brother is a jerk in his 30s, and you gave him multiple warnings. Anyone siding with him should be cut off as well. My man, were he my brother, he would have been out and won. If you are the jerk, it's only because you didn't kick him out sooner. Imagine how different the conversation would have been if your diabetic wife had to be rushed to the hospital, or worse, because something she relied on wasn't there, for a prank. I must sign a name every time I enter the gym? Okay, no problem. This took place years ago when I was in college. I won't say where, it really doesn't matter. But what does matter was I would go to the gym every day back then. At the entrance, there was a desk with a sign-in sheet and staff member there to check your student ID. Now, most of these people were minimum wage students at the school manning the desk, so no one really actually cared if you checked in or had your student ID. I got into the habit of simply walking in and saying hi as I passed the front desk and starting my workout routine. Until one day, a Karen type thought that I was a jerk because I didn't sign in. Get back here and sign in. What? Come back and sign in. You can't enter without signing a name. Now, I was in my workout shorts, didn't have my wallet and student ID on me, and told her so. I don't care about your ID. Just put a name down. So, you don't care to check my ID, but I'm forced to write a name? Not my name? Down? Cue malicious compliance. Sure, no problem. That was the day Miles Davis came to work out. Each day following, I wrote a different celebrity name. I started off under the radar with people that not everyone would know about, like Duke Robillard, jazz blues guitarist, Dwight Yoakam, country singer, Pete Mitchell, Maverick from Top Gun. No one ever asked for ID. Heck, aside from that one day and lady, no one even looked at what I was writing for a name. So it continued. It became a game for me to see how long I could go unnoticed. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so every single member of multiple series casts had visited, from William Shatner and James Doohan to Patrick Stewart and Will Wheaton. Even Tasha Yar made an appearance before being never again heard from. Thanks, Armus. So I got bolder. I was Sean Connery, Austin Powers, Dave Matthews, JFK, etc. On holidays, I always was someone related. Like on Columbus Day, I was Cristobal Colon, his real name, not the Americanized version. This went on for several years before I graduated. Not a single person asked for ID or bothered to check which name I was writing. Turns out, minimum wage kids don't really care to check IDs. To this day, I still smile at whoever was collecting these lists, sighing out loud with an audible, "Oh, come on," yet imagining their frustration growing because none of the students at the desk cared to check my name and ID. Am I the jerk for making my 13-year-old niece return the birthday presents I bought for her because she was giving me attitude? I, 43 female, have been very involved in my niece's life. She's 13, Scarlett. I frequently visit my sister and brother-in-law and often have auntie days with Scarlett, her sister, and my own kids. Scarlett is a beautiful, creative, and clever girl, but she unfortunately can have an entitled attitude. Her parents are middle class. My sister works part-time while my brother-in-law is a magnet school principal. We explain to Scarlett that she is not going to get everything she wants in life, but we will always make sure she has whatever she needs. Scarlett isn't the only one who gets told no, as this applies to every kid in our family. Scarlett still believes that because certain kids at her school have more money than her, she should always get expensive things too. She also has an attitude that because my partner and I make more money, we should buy pricey things for her. My sister and brother-in-law just continue to enforce boundaries and say they are waiting for when Scarlett matures. Scarlett's birthday is in a week. We will be on vacation on the actual day. So 2 days ago, I treated Scarlett to a mall trip. We had a spa day, got lunch, then we're about to head home when Scarlett said she wanted to go to the Apple store. Scarlett showed me one of the MacBook Air laptops and told me that she wanted it. I asked if the Chromebook I got for her school was broken. She said it worked, but a girl in her class had a MacBook Air, so she wanted one too. I explained to Scarlett that if she were willing to wait until Christmas, I could try to find one on sale, but I couldn't afford it at the current price. Scarlett began to throw a tantrum because my son has a laptop that's over $2,000. A laptop I got secondhand and which my son has used for over 8 years. I explained this to her, but Scarlett continued her tantrum, calling me a greedy jerk. I firmly told her, "Scarlett, if you do not stop this behavior right now, I will return your other gifts and you will get nothing from me." Scarlett continued to talk to me like this, so I told her, "That's it." We walked back to all the stores and returned everything. Glittery phone case, jewelry, stuffed animals, everything. The only thing I did not return was a book, but I kept it and told Scarlett I will hold on to it until I feel she has learned to be grateful. Scarlett whined in the car about not getting the things, and I told her, "Scarlett, if you had been grateful, you would have gotten all those things, but you weren't, and now you have nothing from me. Many kids' families can't even afford food. I want you to really think about all the things you have and learn to be grateful." My sister and brother-in-law agreed with my actions, but my brother-in-law's parents say I was cruel to take birthday presents from a kid and that they would be rebuying Scarlett the gifts I returned. I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior, and Scarlett will never be content until she learns to be grateful. Am I the jerk? Okay, I was ready to be mad at you, but after reading this, I'm not. She's 13. You gave her a clear warning, explained the consequences, and gave her time to change her actions. She didn't, so you followed through with the consequence. I'd say that's reasonable. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. She called you names. If I had ever spoken to an adult like that at her age, I would have probably been grounded for a year. Not sure if she has always used this kind of language with adults when she's angry, but her behavior needs to be checked before she does it to someone that does not care for her the way you do, such as a school teacher or a classmate, and gets suspended. You were right to return her birthday gifts because bad behavior should never be rewarded. Returning them was the consequence of her actions. Well, what do you think? Was it wrong of OP to return all of Scarlett's gifts or not? Please let us know. I would have recorded the tantrum and posted it for all her friends to laugh at. You gotta hold these brats accountable or they'll never learn. Am I the jerk for going into my ex-wife's house in the middle of the night to check on my daughter? I'm 38, male. My ex-wife, Linda, who's 36, and I have 2 kids, Lily, who's 9, and Liam, who's 11. Lily's had type 1 diabetes since she was very young, and the 3 of us manage it pretty well, although there's always room for improvement. Part of that is Lily wearing a continuous glucose monitor that can send data and alerts to our phones. Last night at around 11:30 p.m., I got a notification that Lily's sugar was below 60. As Linda would have received the same alert, I gave it about 10 minutes and checked again. Her sugar was still falling.
It was in the low 50s. I sent Linda a text asking if she had seen the alert and taken care of Lily. I did not get a response. 10 minutes later, the app showed that her blood sugar was low enough that it just displayed low. I called Linda to make sure everything was okay. I didn't get an answer. I called and texted several times, but still nothing. At 12 a.m., there was no indication that her blood sugar was rising. I tried to FaceTime Lily and called and texted Linda. I then went into Find My iPhone and played a tone on Lily's phone, hoping someone would hear it, but got nothing. I called her mom so she could try to call Linda. I was hoping that Linda's phone was on Do Not Disturb and her mom could get through. Nothing. I was getting really scared, so I drove the 30 minutes over to Linda's house, calling and texting her the entire time. On the drive over, Lily's phone stopped working and sending data, but at around 12:15 it was still low. I used the keys Linda gave me to go in. Lily woke up, startled, but she was okay. Linda lost her mind, yelling at me from her room to get out of her house and telling me that I can't come in there like that. I was there for about 30 seconds to a minute, and on my way out tried to explain why I was worried and just got screamed at out the door. This morning she called me and angrily said that she knows how to take care of our daughter and I can't do that, and asked for my keys back. She didn't care at all that I was worried about Lily's continuous low alerts or that I couldn't reach her or Lily on their phone, and said that if I had a legitimate concern, I should have called 911. I suggested that she set up a few numbers in her phone that will ring through on the second attempt in case of an emergency. She was completely against that idea because she has a hard time sleeping at night, and that if there were an actual emergency, there's nothing she could do about it at night anyway. I understand that she was upset and probably terrified being woken up in the middle of the night by someone in her home, but she seemed not to care about the extenuating circumstances or the simple solution to me not feeling like I need to drive over there or call 911. So, am I the jerk for going over there to make sure that our daughter was okay? Notes: I've never gone into Linda's house without her explicitly asking me to, and the few times I sent a text to Linda in the middle of the night about alerts, I've received responses. Edit: I did knock several times and called for them very loudly before using the key. I really didn't want to unnecessarily scare them awake with a loud voice inside their house in the middle of the night if I didn't have to. She did take care of the low blood sugar situation before I got there. She just didn't see my dozens of texts or calls to respond. Edit 2. This is in no way a common thing for us. I don't want to give the impression that she is neglecting her. The reason I reacted the way that I did was that it was a unique situation with extenuating circumstances. You're the jerk. I don't buy your story. You were concerned about an urgent medical emergency, but instead of calling 911 to get an ambulance there ASAP, you drove for 30 minutes yourself? BS. You banged for ages on the door and nobody woke up, but they're awake immediately as soon as you're in the door? BS. OP. I didn't say I banged for ages. I knocked loudly and called for them about 3 or 4 times. Their rooms are on the other side of the house, and they didn't respond until I got upstairs. I stayed by the door and called out twice before going upstairs. I didn't call 911 because I thought she'd be more upset if I had done that. You don't buy my story? That's okay, but why? Why do you think I'd want to go all the way over there this one time after we've been divorced for 4 years and caring for the kid just fine on our own? This was an outlining situation. I didn't know what to do. I got scared, but also worried about being yelled at or looking like an idiot for overreacting if I had called 911. I wasn't sure how to react. Next time, hopefully there won't be one, but I'll call 911. You're the jerk. I totally get that hypoglycemia is a medical emergency. As a parent, I totally get the absolute fear and panic that could take over if you thought one of your kids was in danger. But what I don't get is how you could wait so long to act if you were really that concerned. It took her blood sugar 20 minutes to drop from 60s to below 40. At this point, when you were unable to raise anyone to the alarm, it would have been vastly more appropriate to call 911. Instead, you took 30 minutes to drive over. If it was a true medical emergency, you might have been there too late. Also, ignoring your ex-wife's boundaries like this is a good way to get your key privileges revoked. Next time, let the paramedics get yelled at for waking your ex up in the middle of the night. You're the jerk for not calling 911. When you couldn't reach your wife, your first thought should have been to get help ASAP to your daughter. You wasted a lot of time after you knew how low your daughter's blood sugar was, especially since it was dropping so quickly. Not sure I understand why you left Lily without making sure her blood sugar was normal.
Your screaming ex should not have been an impediment to that. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know.
Sounds to me like a good dad who loves his daughter. But what do I know? I'm just a Karen.
Karen.
Serve me and my family.
Me. This is gonna be fun. Hey everyone. This happened a little while ago, but I'm finally getting around to posting it. So I'm a college student, and this happened near the end of the previous semester a few months ago. I was just finishing a long day on campus, attending classes and doing homework. I ended the day with a meeting with a professor who was the head of a program on campus, so I was dressed in business casual to make a good impression. When I left campus after the meeting, my wife texted me that she had gone to see a movie with some of her friends and wouldn't be back until late, so I decided to grab a bite to eat at one of my favorite restaurants on my way home, since I wouldn't get to eat dinner with her. I stopped at a place that's well known for breakfast all day. So I stepped inside and I put my name down for a table while chatting with the hostess, as I work in the food industry part-time and I like to chat with restaurant workers. Once my name was down, she said it would only be a minute or two until my table was ready. As the hostess went into the back for a minute, I realized I had a coupon for the restaurant in my car and decided to go retrieve it. Right then, I hear the door open, and as I turn around, I see a Karen and her 4 kids standing right behind me. Characters in this story. We've got me. We've got entitled Mom, the Karen of the day. We've got C1, Karen's oldest kid, maybe 13. We've got C2, Karen's second kid, who was about 9. The other kids don't really play any roles. We've got the chill dad, Karen's husband. He was out parking the car and didn't enter for a few minutes. And we've got the awesome dude in the booth next to me, along with the hostess. Now, to set the stage, I was still in business casual with my best jeans and a blue button-down shirt with a slight scruff of a beard from several days of not shaving, making me look a bit older than my actual age of 24. I was also wearing a lanyard that I carry my keys on. Highly recommend this actually, as it greatly reduces lost key incidents. All in all, I'm not surprised she was initially confused that I was some kind of a manager, but as we all know, first impressions are all that most Karens retain. Karen.
Yes, I need a table of 6 for my family.
Me. I don't. Entitled Mom cuts me off.
Did you hear me? I need a table for 6. Seat us. Put our names on the list. Really? How did you get a job as a manager if you don't even know how to help customers?
Now, to set the stage for how I'm about to react to this Karen, I'm a major nerd, and I'm proud of it. I'm also well known by friends and family for being able to quote lines from movies. And one of my favorite movies of all time is The Princess Bride. It's a perfect movie, and one of the best ever made, so I adore it, and my dream is to one day open a Princess Bride-themed restaurant. Now, I have pretty much the entire script of Princess Bride memorized, and by chance, I had watched it earlier that day while working on a homework assignment. Yes, I sometimes play movies while I work on homework. So the movie was fresh in my mind. Somehow, I'm not sure of how, an idea formed in my head, and I thought I'd have some fun with this Karen. Me. Look, I'm retired. The owner's stinking son fired me, and thank you for bringing up such a painful subject. While you're at it, why don't you give me a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice on it? Karen is stunned, splattering words as she clearly didn't expect a response like this. Kid 1 is grinning and looking like he's trying to stop himself from laughing. I'm guessing he's seen the movie and recognized the line. Me, wanting to get on with this and jar Karen back to her senses so I can have some more fun. Anybody want a peanut? Entitled Mom.
Well, I never. How dare you talk to a customer like that? You're a terrible manager.
Me. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Entitled Mom, still not getting it.
What is wrong with you? I should tell your boss to fire you for treating customers like this. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Kid 2.
Mommy, I think this guy…
Shush. Let me sort this out.
She turns back to me.
Get me your manager.
Me. Beat it, or I'll call the brute squad. Karen, getting red in the face and splattering in anger. Right then, the hostess comes out. It's quickly clear that she heard most, if not all, of the interaction as she's smiling and trying not to laugh. Hostess. Sir, I can seat you now. Deciding to keep up the fun and not able to help myself at this point, I turn to the hostess and ask, I do not mean to pry, but you don't happen to have 6 fingers on your right hand. Both the hostess and Kid 1 are trying not to laugh, while Entitled Mom is fuming. However, before she can explode, the hostess whisks me away to my table. I try to ignore Karen from that point on and start perusing the menu. As I'm trying to decide between a pancake breakfast or steak and eggs, I see the hostess taking the entitled mom and her family, now joined by her husband, to their table. The entitled mom spots me, glares, and has her kids sit down before she storms over to my table with her husband to back her up. I prepare for a little more fun, hoping she'll say something that I can work with.
Karen, you should be ashamed of yourself. I've never been treated like that in a restaurant, let alone by management. Even if you're on break, you should be helping customers if they ask for it. What's your name? I'm reporting you to corporate.
Me, praising the heavens she gave me the chance to use the golden line. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You hurt my father. Prepare to battle. The entitled mom looks stunned, but the husband's cheeks balloon out and I hear a hiss of air escaping his pursed lips as he tries to stop himself from exploding in laughter right there. I know he also has seen the movie and understands exactly what's going on. I can now see Karen start to realize what's happening. Right then, Awesome Dude, a guy in the booth behind me, turns around and sees. This guy's not a manager, lady. Can't you tell that by now? I can see the gears finally turning in Karen's head as she realizes her mistake and the situation she put herself in. But still wanting to save face, she says,
Well, there was no need to be so rude. Even if you're not an employee, you could have been nicer to us, or at least called an employee for us.
My response, that would be totally inconceivable. At this point, the husband deserves an award for holding in his laughter as he manages to get out. Honey, this guy doesn't work here. Let's just leave him be. The Karen concedes and sulks back to her table. Grinning like a madman, I return to the menu and end up ordering the pancake breakfast. Yes, I like breakfast for dinner. The entitled mom and her family also order and end up getting done before me, as I eat slowly by myself due to the need to play games on my phone while eating. As the entitled mom and her family are leaving, I can't help myself getting in one last laugh and raise my hand to wave as I say, Bye-bye, boys. Have fun storming the castle. At this point, laughter can't be contained, and the husband, kid one, the hostess, and several patrons start laughing. Even the entitled mom, calmed down by now and realized what I'm doing, can't help but let out the smallest of grins, though she refuses to look at me out of embarrassment. Then my day is made as I hear a voice from the booth behind me continue. Awesome Dude. Think it'll work? Me, grinning. It would take a miracle. Both of us. Bye-bye. The family walks out and I give Awesome Dude a fist bump. My server, who had heard the whole thing, brought me out a pair of sausages on the house as thanks for the entertainment. And that, my friends, is how I defeated a Karen with the help of the Princess Bride. Author's note. Think it's fake if you want. I don't care. I still enjoy the memory. Speaking of movies, what's your favorite movie? Please let us know in the comments.
Napoleon Dynamite for the win. That movie just never gets old.
I'm not the vice principal anymore? Okay, so this happened at the end of this school year. I posted what was going on in another group, and several of the people there told me to post what happened here. This story is in 4 parts, and I apologize for the length. I also apologize for any teacher slang I use, as it's like second nature to use it, just like military cargo was when I was in the military. Basically, I was told that all the assistant and vice principals in the district, other than at the high school, were being let go, and a teacher on assignment was going to take our jobs. I was not heartbroken over this, but was treated badly by the new admin team taking my job and my principal's job. Also, I tried to help my staff on my way out, and it seems my bosses cared more about their images than my staff's happiness. So here's the story. Part 1. So none of the other admin in my district had received our contracts for the coming school year yet. I was wondering what was going on, but I heard rumors about a pay scale shift, and that was the reason for it. I found out Wednesday what's actually happening. Every assistant principal and vice principal in the district, why we have 2 titles, I have no idea, is not getting renewed contracts, except for the ones at the high school. Their positions are being eliminated, and their jobs are being replaced with a new position that pays a teacher's salary, plus a $2,000 stipend. They are replacing the assistant principals with learning coordinators. Apparently, the budget is the given reason, but I also heard rumors from someone at the district office. Each of us assistant principals and vice principals were scheduled to meet with one of the assistant supers on Wednesday. We thought it was about our contracts, and we were correct. When I arrived, the acting superintendent was there with the head of HR. I was told about the elimination of my position, but not the reasons why. I was then given an option for the upcoming school year. I could go back into the classroom, I could work in the district office, or I could apply and interview for the new position that is replacing my job.
What on earth? I wouldn't care at all if I was told that my position had been cut completely and I needed to go back into the classroom. I love the classroom. I miss teaching full-time. However, to tell me to apply and interview for a job I already have is BS. We were told to give the district our answers by Friday, and they would draw up contracts or schedule interviews. Wednesday afternoon, I went to see Tony, who is an assistant superintendent and one of the few decent leaders in the school district. I heard from Tony that there was an internal shakeup, but he wasn't allowed to talk about it or even give me a hint about what happened. However, one of the assistant supers was being reassigned, aka demoted, to being the principal of my current school. My principal was not coming back due to health reasons. The superintendent was released from his contract, and my school's new learning coordinator position had already been filled. Who filled it? A school counselor from one of the high schools who just happens to be a friend and lackey of the assistant super that is now the new principal. So early this morning, I gave them my answer. I decided that I didn't need until Friday to decide. I tried to make sure I sounded professional, but I made sure that my message was getting across by speaking with authority. I went into the acting superintendent's office and told him that I thought that laying off a bunch of people so they could hire others to do the same job but at less pay was BS. I told him that the way the school district handled certain situations was idiotic. I then gave several examples. I next told him that he was going to ruin a perfectly good school with an amazing team of educators by putting a lazy, mean, parent-pleasing person in as its new principal and letting her put a lackey in as her second in command. I said that she was as useless as a screen door on a submarine and as mean as Dolores Umbridge. I finished the 3-minute speech by stating that I will work very hard and finish the school year strong. I will prep things for the next school year so that the teachers have an easier time. I also let him know I would never work at or recommend the district to anyone ever again. Then I left, letting him know that I expect an amazing letter of recommendation by the end of the school day Friday afternoon, since I earned it for my service the past few years. So what am I going to do now? Well, I called up an old friend Wednesday who's currently a principal at a STEAM charter school that's part of a chain of charter STEAM schools and asked if he had a teaching position available. He's been asking every year for the past 5 years for me to come work for him. He told me he had 3 openings and I could have my pick of them. So next year I will be a, drumroll please, 6th grade teacher, and I'm very happy about it. I even get to design my curriculum as long as it meets state standards. I could apply elsewhere for admin positions, but I think I need a break from school leadership. I need to love my work again like I used to as a teacher. Yes, there were and are many challenges, and sometimes I hated going to work, but I do love being a teacher. I feel bad for my current staff because the regime change will hit them hard, but there's nothing I can do about it. I wish I could help them. The most I could do would be to take a teaching position at my current school, but then I would be miserable with them and be helpless to do anything to aid them. So for myself and my daughter, who I love more than anything, I'm making the move to a new school and going back to what I enjoy doing, teaching. I'm even bringing my daughter to my new school to start next year as a 5th grader. I asked her if she wanted to stay at her current school or go to the STEAM school with me, and she wants to go with me. She was excited since she has visited there several times and loves the technology room, the robotics class, and the science labs. Plus, she's friends with some of the kids there already. As a goodbye to my other staff, I'm going out this weekend and I'm going to buy some nice letter paper and scratcher tickets. I'm going to write short, individualized goodbyes to each of my staff members, and at the end I will include the following words. I'm giving you some scratcher tickets. My hope is that you are as lucky scratching them as I have been lucky to have worked with you. So that's it. I have to finish my contract, but at the end of June, I'm free. I'm looking forward to teaching full-time again and having a boss who will let me just do my job and not interfere. I don't think I want to work in administration again, but maybe after a few years, I will decide to work as an AP again. Part 2. So I put together goodbye gifts for all of my staff, and I'll be handing them out Friday, their last day with the kids. They have a bunch of goodies that I posted about weeks ago. I was thinking this weekend about how to get revenge on the district office one more time and help my teachers out, even in a small way, so I came up with it Sunday night. My district requires each teacher to attend additional training throughout the year. These are outside of the regular staff development trainings. They're run by district staff, SPED teachers, and admin. The training normally lasts 1 to 3 hours, and the teacher gets a certificate for the time spent in the training. Each teacher is required to attend 24 hours of these before the end of the school year. Most teachers take them over the summer, if they are offered, so they don't have to take them during the school year. So yesterday morning before work, I was making copies of the certificates for all the courses I have run here the past few years. Classroom management strategies, lockdown procedures, social studies strategies, math strategies, reading comprehension, and environmental print. I'm going to fill them out with each of the teachers' names and number of hours. I'm adding all the times I ever spoke to the staff about these topics and putting down hours to correspond, rounding up to the nearest hour. Wouldn't you know, each of these topics was 3 to 5 hours in length. Each staff member will have exactly 24 hours worth of training. I filled out the dates of the training for the 2022 and 2023 school year. Oh, and I have an attendance sheet with all of the names, and I have them marked as being present. Note, I checked with district, and since I'm still an administrator into the summer, I am allowed to run these trainings over the summer before I leave. Now they can have their summer to themselves and not worry about taking classes during the school year. They can if they wish, but 99% of teachers here hate the mandatory training hours. I hope the staff likes the present. Part 3. Since Friday, I am no longer a school administrator. I technically have another week to work, but I took vacation during that time because, well, forget them. Now I spend the last week packing up, giving aid and comfort to my now former staff, and causing problems for the new administrators who are jerks. Now, besides giving the entire staff a year free from additional PDs, I wasn't planning on causing any more problems. Just quietly leave and dry off into the sunset, Shane style. But no. Apparently, I don't deserve a quiet week. The new principal, demoted from assistant super, and her new teacher on assignment, TOA, decided for some reason to be rude to me. There was only one response I had to that. I aimed to misbehave. How were they rude to me, you ask? First off, they ordered me to hurry and clean out my office. Apparently, the TOA wanted to start redecorating my office. I was literally told, "Get all your personal stuff out of here ASAP. She wants her office now." I still had a week to work there and actual work to do. Second, the new principal tried to steal my personal chair and my personal office supplies and decorations. That chair was a gift to me from a friend. I found her just wheeling it out of my office and into hers. My desk supplies and a banner from my wall were stacked on its seat. I told her that it was my personal chair, not the district's. She said, "Okay." The very next morning, I found it missing. She had moved it into her office after I left for the day. Third, I was given a list of tasks to complete by Friday by the TOA, who is in no way, shape, or form my boss. These were not my job to do, and are in fact the incoming admin's duty to complete. Stuff the new admin are supposed to do. Things like put together new staff packets, schedule next year's PDs, fill out and submit request forms, etc. Finally, I was talked down to every single day by the new admin team. I was spoken to as though I were the hired help and they were the royal jerks. Seriously, I speak to a waitress that messes up my order with 20 times the amount of respect that they showed me. They actually tried to get my attention by snapping their fingers at me, like that would work. So I decided to do as I was told. I was a soldier, so I knew how to follow orders. 1. I removed everything that was my personal property. That included my chairs, decorations, the stress relievers, punching bag, etc., the fridge from the office, and the file cabinets in my office. Yes, I bought government surplus cabinets because I didn't have any. All my files and all of my former principal's files were in there. I had even bought the manila folder I used in it. So I took every piece of paper out of my cabinets, removed them from my labeled folders, and stacked them on the floor into one large pile. There is no order to how they are stacked. I took my chair from the principal's office while she was in a meeting with parents. I just walked in and rolled it out. She stopped talking to the parents to ask what I was doing, and I responded that I was taking my personal property out ASAP as I was ordered to do. I had an old medium-sized fridge I had placed in the office workroom for office staff to store their food in, but it's mine, so I took the fridge. I brought it right out the front door and loaded it into my truck. I even took the new admin's food out of it and left them on the table. It's my fridge. I warned the rest of the office staff I was taking it, but forgot to tell admin. Darn. I copied all my digital files over to a flash drive and then deleted everything off my work Google Drive. Anything I personally created or designed. I copied all my emails too. I informed the staff that if they need time off next year and need it approved, to submit the forms to me this week. I got several, and they are now all approved. I got this idea from someone who messaged me here on Reddit and suggested I do this. Thanks for the advice. I approved every supply list item the staff submitted and even drove to the district warehouse to pick up some items personally. I even approved funds for a second-hand kiln for the art teacher. She found a good one on Craigslist.
I had repaired my desk with bolts and tools from home. I took the bolts back. The desk is now lopsided again. The closet door was broken when I got there, so I repaired it. I have now put it back as it was when I was hired. The two-way mirror to the detention room was mine. I had gotten it from a friend at another school in a different district. It allowed me to watch the detention students from my office without them seeing me. I popped that right out and took it home. Now the TOA has a hole in the wall the detention kids can look through. I had put together all the lockdown budgets and fire drill bags myself with my own money. I took all of them back. This I felt bad about, but I will give them out to the staff at my new school. I put a rush order on all classroom and building repairs and have an approved order to have every classroom repainted. I assembled new staff packets and the new school year binders. Besides the basics of what is required, I have included throughout the binders in random places Dilbert cartoons, famous Harry Potter quotes, the lyrics to Nickelback's How You Remind Me, I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, All-Star by Smash Mouth, and We Built This City by Starship. I also included in the binder the admin Wi-Fi password for them since that signal is stronger for some reason. I went ahead and wrote out the PD schedule for next year. Oddly, every Wednesday is listed as free time or work in your classroom. I'm sure they will change it, but I don't know when they will find out what it says. I had a master list of donators and partners in the community. It was posted on a whiteboard in my office. I got over 4 dozen businesses and people in the community to help with various things or donate over the years. I spent a lot of my time building relationships with them and making deals. I took a photo of it and then I erased the list and took the whiteboard since it was mine. Then I got yelled at 3 times. The first time was when I took back my chair. I was told it was unprofessional to just take it without asking, especially with guests present. I responded with, yes, it was unprofessional to take my chair without asking. The second time was when the TOA found the refrigerator gone. She said that it was community property. I told her, no, it's my property, and I was told to take all my property from the campus. The third time was when I was in the parking lot leaving and they found the piles of papers. The principal flagged me down and told me to clean it up. I told her I was off the clock and that the district never reimbursed me for the cabinets, so I had to take them with me. I'm expecting a call from HR today asking for my assistance setting everything back up, since with all my stuff removed and erased, the admin team had to actually put in some hard work. I'd come in for my consultant rate, $75 an hour with a minimum contract for 12 hours. Part 4. The Tuesday after I left, I received a call from HR. I ignored it. I then left for a road trip with my daughter where we went to San Francisco for a few days and went to 2 Giants games. Unfortunately, they lost both games. While we were on our trip, they called and emailed me at my personal email account. My work one was deleted by them. I ignored the calls and never opened the emails. My daughter and I then went to Disneyland for a few days of fun and then returned this past Friday. I then checked the voicemails and emails. I was asked, begged, and then ordered to come to HR for important meetings. It is very important that we speak to you as soon as possible, is what they said repeatedly. So yesterday, I went into the district office wearing cargo shorts, a shirt I got at Disneyland, and flip-flops. I don't work there, so I don't need to dress up. When I arrived, I was originally treated like a visiting VIP. The HR manager and her assistant tried to butter me up like a Pillsbury biscuit. After a few minutes of them trying to make small talk, and me then letting them know I had plans to go to lunch in 30 minutes, they got to the point. They wanted me to turn over a few things took with me that, though they belonged to me, they said were sorely needed at the school. They gave me a list from the new principal, which included, but was not limited to, my chair, seriously, my refrigerator and appliances, my community contacts board, people and businesses that I built relationships and partnerships with, my personally designed forms and worksheets, two-way mirror, my lockdown buckets and fire drill bags. They also wanted copies of every record I kept and notes I took on the staff and students. The notes I took on the staff were so I could personalize gifts for them and have conversations with them on their interests. I said no to all of those requests. I told the ladies that the furniture and appliances were mine that I brought in. I stated that the chair was a gift to me from a friend and that the new principal can afford to buy her own chair. I also stated that I left any official school and district documents there, and any I took with me and or deleted were of my own making and my own intellectual property. I also stated that my contacts were developed over the years of my personal time and at personal cost to me. I also stated that everything I took that I had submitted reimbursement was never reimbursed. I kept my records and pay stubs. I never saw a red cent from those submissions. They offered to pay me for some of the items and gave me a rough figure of what the district would pay me to return the fridge, the forms, buckets, bags, mirror, and contact board. I told them that I did not want to hand them over to the new admin team since they had treated me so poorly. They asked me again and tried to reason that some of those things could be interpreted as school property. I told them that they were welcome to try and force me to return anything that was legally mine to return, but I would be willing to fight it in court. I also told them that those two new administrators made me uncomfortable and that their treatment of me could be considered making a hostile work environment, especially when they tried to make me do their jobs for them. I then gave the HR team my lawyer's info. Note, I dated a lawyer after my divorce a few years ago and we're still good friends, and she has offered herself as my forever retained lawyer, that I can use her name and she'd help me if she could. I rarely use her name, but when I have needed her legal advice, she always comes through. I also help her with physical chores when she or her family needs help. I then wished the lady a good school year in the term to come and left. I doubt I will ever hear from them again. Shut up and do what I tell you. Okay, boss. Hello, my home country of Canada just happened to have an incident where Rogers, one of the big three telecommunications companies, accidentally cut off all telecommunications for 25% of Canada, as well as the point of sale system for most businesses across the country. This reminded me of a malicious compliance incident that happened during my time working at a call center for a Canadian telecommunications company, and I thought I could share my story. This tale starts all the way back in 2013 and involves my time working at a call center at the fourth largest national cellular carrier. For a little bit of context about Canadian telecommunications, and specifically cell phone services, Canada is the second largest nation on Earth by landmass, with one of the lowest population densities, and the federal government has some strict laws about foreign ownership and financing of telecommunications. As a result of this, cell phone plans are very expensive, and the only companies that offer service are already established large companies with the resources to purchase spectrum and set up infrastructure. My employer was a newcomer to the market and was trying to make a splash by offering lowered price services on the recently auctioned off AWS spectrum. The expensive cell phone plans that were offered in Canada were a real hot button issue. Such a hot button that in the 2011 federal election, all of the major political parties campaigned with the promise to make services better and lower prices. The result of this election was that in 2013, the CRTC, Canadian Radio and Television Commission, revised a bunch of the laws that regulated cell phone providers, specifically cell phone contracts. The updated laws were called the CRTC Code of Conduct. The new wireless code made a bunch of changes, but the most important were that cell phone contracts were required to be written in plain English instead of legalese, and any service advertised as unlimited cannot have an overage charge by law. These new regulations were a very big deal at the time, and employees at the call center I worked at were required to sit through multiple training sessions and take quizzes and tests about this to make sure we knew and understood the new laws. When this was happening, I was working in the back office department in one of the call centers for this cellular carrier. The back office department served several functions, but I had managed to find a niche in the department. I had become responsible for monitoring people's roaming usage when traveling outside of Canada and disconnect them before they get bill shock. At the time, it was not uncommon to find news stories of people coming home from a trip and having an $85,000 phone bill, and I was the sole person responsible for making sure that this didn't happen. Also, I worked part-time 3 days a week. The supervisor of the back office department did not get along with me. He would constantly harass me. I was previously in the technical support department where he was the supervisor when the harassment began. I eventually became frustrated with the way I was being treated and transferred away from technical support to back office so that I could escape from the way he was treating me. A couple of months after I transferred, he transferred too and became my supervisor once again, and it continued. I'm not sure what I did to this person to make them treat me the way that they did, but we had an antagonistic relationship for as long as he was my supervisor. So in 2014, my employer became the first carrier, to my knowledge, to offer unlimited USA roaming. You could pay $15 a month on top of your normal monthly plan and get unlimited roaming in the United States. They also had offered a trucker plan, $35 a month total, that would have unlimited voice, SMS, and data anywhere in North America, and it was marketed directly to long-haul truckers. This add-on and plan were a pretty big deal, as other carriers were charging $2 to $5 per megabyte for data roaming. To my mind, monitoring USA roaming is no longer a high priority, as I can't disconnect people that have this add-on, or appropriate plan because it's against the law. I continue to monitor roaming usage, and every time I see a user with a massive amount of data usage, I go into their account to confirm the existence of the add-on or a plan that would allow for this roaming usage. Once confirmed, I move on to the next account. My focus quickly starts to be focused on people traveling in Europe, Asia, and Africa. There are fewer people roaming in those locations as Canada doesn't share a land border with them, and the data roaming rate is a lot more expensive, to the tune of $20 per megabyte. This is going well for a couple of weeks until my supervisor comes up and asks why I'm not deactivating the accounts traveling in the United States anymore. I attempt to explain that I can't deactivate these customers as they have an appropriate plan or add-on, and if I were to do this, then the company would be in violation of the new laws. We have a back and forth about this, and the discussion ends when he says something to the effect of, "Just shut up and do what I told you." Alright, fine, if that's the way you want to do it. Can you send me an email with those instructions, please? Normally I would work at my normal work pace, but that day specifically I was flying through accounts. I'm not sure how many people I deactivated. I was cutting people off left, right, and center. I went home that night and knew that there would be fallout, and I felt incredibly guilty for negatively affecting the honest customers that were caught in the crossfire of my supervisor's BS. Because I was part-time and only working 3 days a week, I wouldn't see the fallout for 4 more days. When I got back to work, the situation was apparently complete chaos. The entire department had spent the 4 days that I was off trying to reactivate people, and they wouldn't be finished for a couple more days still. I had heard rumors that some people, important people, had threatened lawsuits and all sorts of other things as a result of being cut off when they had purchased plans advertised with unlimited data in the US. The supervisor/manager tried to blame me, but I had the email and witnesses to our conversation to back me up. I don't know if the supervisor got in trouble for this incident. Nothing happened to me over it. I do know that he was eventually promoted to being the general manager of the call center and subsequently fired years later when we brought in a union over the crappy working conditions. Am I the jerk for refusing to stand up for my girlfriend when I felt she purposely started drama with my mother? I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years and we're talking about getting engaged soon. I love her wholeheartedly and would choose her over my mom in a heartbeat. They don't get along at all, so it's come up plenty of times, and I think I've done a good job of siding with my girlfriend. They just flat out don't like each other, but they also seem to have some rivalry going on. My girlfriend has confided in me that she feels like she can't win. They're both guilty of being competitive, but she feels my mom has a lot of stuff over her. I of course don't agree, but it bothers her. My mom is really good at cooking, but her baking is just okay. She can't decorate the cakes at all, and my girlfriend recently discovered this. My mom's fiance had a birthday and he wanted a banana cake with honey cream cheese frosting. My mom made it and it wasn't great looking. Tasted good though. My girlfriend made the same cake but decorated it beautifully and decided to bring it to the party. It was a work of art, but I told her she was just trying to cause problems and I didn't want her to bring it. She decided to bring it and I didn't stop her. When we got there, my mom saw her cake and didn't look happy, but she didn't say anything. My mom's fiance just flat out refused to touch my girlfriend's cake. I think he told other guests to do the same because no one would eat it. I took a big piece and I praised it, but she was clearly upset. She went over and tried to pressure him to eat it, and honestly, he was pretty rude. He told her he sees through her. He isn't going to touch her cake, but if it makes her feel better because she found one thing that she's good at, then take the win. He thanked my mom for his cake, kissed her, and then told my girlfriend she was bothering him and to get out of his face. I didn't do anything in the moment. She later asked me to talk to him and I declined. I said she brought the cake to cause problems, so I think his reaction was okay. She teared up a bit and said that he was really mean and I need to say something. I still refused, and when we left, I said goodbye, thanked them for inviting us, and was just normal. She accused me of being spineless and is still upset. Not the jerk. Your girlfriend was way out of line, and I don't care how rude mom's fiance was to her. He was just exactly perfect in what he did for his love. Your girlfriend does not deserve a win for trying to one-up your mom at her fiance's birthday. She's gross, and I have some ideas about why your mom doesn't like her. Yeah, I mean, the girlfriend is a massive rude jerk here. This is outrageous. Trying to upstage the birthday boy's fiance, the hostess, by bringing in a fancier version of the cake, and even trying to pressure people into eating it, and then acting like she's got any right to feel hurt because people were mean.
As in, they called her out for how outrageous she was being? Instead of embarrassed and mortified, because what on earth was she thinking? Not the jerk, OP, but your girlfriend is not right in the head. This goes beyond just being competitive. She was being mind-bogglingly rude and out of line, and it's a giant marinara flag that she doesn't acknowledge just how bad she messed up and how rude she was. It's unhealthy for her to be so obsessed with winning. She's willing to cause scenes and ruin celebrations with this type of intentional being a jerk, and won't even apologize, but will instead get mad at people for not supporting her insane upstaging antics. Edit. The fiance probably didn't even need to ask the other guests not to eat your girlfriend's cake, because anyone with any understanding of basic manners and decency would not want to offend the host by going along with such a rude stunt. Seriously, OP, you need to think if you're willing to lose your mom over your girlfriend, because she seems determined to destroy any relationship or goodwill between them. This is a ridiculous level of being a jerk. Kudos to your mom and her fiance for handling it so well. Not the jerk. Reddit loves to crap on mother and father-in-laws and difficult parents in general. But maybe it's time to have a long, hard look at if your mother's reasons for not liking your girlfriend are valid. If this was your birthday, maybe I'd understand a little more. But your girlfriend tried to show up your mother at her fiance's birthday, and he handled it like a pro. I wouldn't put it past your girlfriend to turn up to your mother's wedding wearing white. This feud isn't going to go away, so before you propose, have a think about if you're really willing to lose your mother over your girlfriend, because after her little stunt, I wouldn't be surprised if they choose to go low or no contact. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know.
Reddit is actually siding with the mother-in-law? I don't think this has ever happened before. Is this a glitch in the Matrix?
Am I the jerk for asking my team member where she was when I noticed her away status while she was work from home? My team at work does 4 days work from the office and 1 day work from home. This is because we have sensitive physical paper files to work with as part of our work, so we still have to come into the office. One of my team members, Sarah, had appealed to do 2 days work from the office and 3 days work from home instead, on the basis that she has 2 kids to look after. Although other team members also have kids and Sarah had no problem coming in 5 days a week before lockdown, I relented to the request after she became upset and accused me of being inflexible and started crying in my office, and also checking with the rest of my team to make sure they were okay with it. I've noticed of late that when Sarah is work from home, she has a tendency to go offline or away on Skype during office hours. She's usually offline or away for more than an hour each time. Yesterday, I finally asked her about it and told her that other people, internal clients and external stakeholders, have come to me for work matters she's handling because they could not locate her. One external stakeholder even told me that Sarah was on leave. When I clarified that Sarah was not on leave, the stakeholder was bewildered. But she's been offline the whole morning. Sarah was defensive and sarcastically apologized for not being there to reply to messages immediately. She then added that as long as she got her work done, it didn't matter when she was online or offline. I told her she didn't have to be online for the entire 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. duration, but minimally from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a break for lunch, so that A, people can reach her if they need to, and B, other team members don't notice and start following her example, particularly since Sarah is senior to the others. Sarah was unhappy, and since then I've come to be aware that she's been saying things about me to the rest of the team, including how I am a dinosaur, still working according to former working norms. So, am I the jerk? Edit. The entire division, including Sarah, reports to me. Sarah is salaried, not hourly. Sarah's work is affected by her behavior because part of her job is being available to internal clients and, where applicable, external stakeholders. External stakeholders can see whether Sarah is online or offline because we are all linked in a single public Skype network comprising related agencies, organizations, companies, and ministries. Separately, Sarah's conduct affects me and other team members since we have to respond to queries meant for Sarah, particularly when they are urgent. It also reflects badly on the division as a whole when Sarah is unreachable. Not the jerk. Employees are evaluated on more than work product. There's teamwork, reliability, engagement, etc. Further, business hours do not change because you work from home. Sarah's lack of accessible denotes her failure at teamwork and engagement. People that think like she does are going to be sorely disappointed, outright upset, when they do not get a bonus or promotion or lateral move to a different position. If your coworkers and clients cannot access you during business hours, you're failing at your position. One question to consider: how much of the "I need to speak to this person now" is actually necessary? This description of immediate responses being needed from both internal and external stakeholders reminds me a lot of a previous company I worked for. They had built up a culture of always being available to reply, but it really wasn't necessary. It often put us behind because we were always working on immediate fires. It was distracting. Every time I needed to work on something that took any kind of creative brainpower, I'd be interrupted by "just a quick question" or "can't find this file, can you resend?" There are certain roles where being available for communication at all times is important. Customer service, administrative assistance, but in most other roles, it's simply not. I'd love to see more managers reevaluating this need to be constantly connected. 100%. We have started to leave ours on invisible so clients do not know if we're online and get back to them within a business day, and not one has complained. But if they see someone online and they don't reply, their manager often gets a follow-up from the client or coworker trying to contact them. I'm much more productive when I can work on a file without interruption and schedule time to check and reply to messages, and within my team, we use a second chat platform for immediate requests and questions. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is Sarah? Please let us know.
Don't worry, Sarah will get back to you as soon as she finishes the episode she's watching.
Want me to scrub the registers at peak time? Alright then, sure thing, boss. I work in the store where you pay for a cart and the cashiers all sit. The store floors frequently get pretty dirty because, well, there's a lot of customers coming in and out, especially at the time this story happens. I'm doing some backstock when the manager on duty comes up to me and says, "Hey, store manager wants you to scrub produce and the register area." Keep in mind, our scrubber is a behemoth, loud, and can be difficult to maneuver. Not the best equipment to pull out at 5 p.m. on a Monday. Also, there are lines 8 to 10 people deep at both open registers. I point this out to the manager on duty, and she just shrugs, saying,
"Just get it done."
"Okay then." I pull out the scrubber and happen to get a lucky break. Produce is empty, so it only takes me a couple of minutes. Now the registers, still crowded. I take the scrubber around the empty registers, feeling the glare of customers on my back. Whether it was from the noise or the wait, I don't know, and nor do I care. Now I'm left with the 2 jam-packed registers. There's no way I could ask people to wait a moment to let me through. They're already upset. I can see the manager coming, gesturing at me to get it done. So I do the most efficient thing I can think of. I go to the back of the line, shut down the scrubber, and wait. And wait, and wait. Customers are lining up behind me, and the cashiers are holding back a laugh as I creep closer. Finally, I'm next, and I run the scrubber through the registers. Thankfully, the line at the second register cleared just as I was finishing the first. All done. I take the scrubber back to the break room, and I had just started to empty it when the store manager comes storming in. Store manager: "Why did that take you so long? Scrubbing is supposed to go quickly. We're too busy for you to be standing around." Me: "You wanted me to scrub the registers, but the registers were packed. I told manager on duty that it would take a while." "You weren't scrubbing. You were just standing in line." Me: "Yep, that was the best way to get through the line." The store manager and I have a stare down for a few seconds before she throws her hands up and walks away. And I've never been asked to scrub the registers during peak times again. My friend's cousin complied with his cool family's demands. This happened a while back, maybe 3 to 4 years ago. My college friend told me about how his cousin basically did over his family by moving out when they told him to. Note: to make it easier to follow, I'm gonna use fake names. Cousin is Jack, cousin's sister is Tina, cousin's parents Bob and Mary. So Jack is roughly 28 and still living with his parents, but he pays their bills, electric, water, internet, etc. And this is a big 2-story house, so the bills are big too. His sister, who's 24, had left the house by then and gotten married to a guy that makes good money. She had taken credit for paying the bills and convinced Bob and Mary to kick him out because he's a shut-in loser, because none of them understood his job. A bit of backstory on their parents. My friend tells me they're like those stereotypical teens in the cliché high school movies. Basically, they look down on nerds and think people who study hard are uncool, that type of thing. Anyway, they kept that mentality even after growing up and having kids, so they always looked down on Jack for being nerdy and favoritized Tina because she was pretty and popular in high school. But apparently, Jack didn't really care because his personal life had friends he cared about and he connected more with his relatives.
So they all confront him, and after bad-mouthing him about how he stays in his room mostly, and how his sister, her husband, and kid need the space, told him he has till the end of the month to leave. This was done close to the first week. Jack didn't say a word. He just nodded and left by the end of that week and moved 3 cities away to a city closer to his other relatives. 2 months go by and his sister calls him, asking why this month's bills weren't paid, as their lights and water had been shut off. He tells her that she should have paid them since she was, allegedly, paying them before. About a week goes by and he gets a call from his parents explaining how his sister confessed to everything and how he can come back and have his old room back so long as he kept helping them pay the bills. He refused, saying he's enjoying living by himself and how he can focus on his work more because he's away from them. Afterwards, he blocked their numbers and now they have to pay for it themselves. He doesn't know what happened after that because they're no longer invited to family gatherings. I'm the delivery guy, not a porch pirate. This just happened and I had to post it. My husband and I both work for Amazon Flex, which has freelance drivers deliver packages to different areas that are a little off the beaten path. This way, everyone, even those who live in tiny forgotten towns that are surrounded by cornfields, will get their packages in a timely manner. Today, my husband, who I'll refer to as husband, was doing a block in such an area. It's early in the day and the car is full of packages when he entered small town. It was the kind of place that had a post office, a gas station, an old mill, and a sheriff. It's the place where everyone knows everyone because they're all related by blood or marriage. So when husband starts making stops at houses in town in an unfamiliar car, everyone noticed. Husband doesn't even realize that he's being watched. It's just another stop on his delivery route. Then he goes to drop off a package at a house at the end of a dead-end road. He does the drop at the door, sends the notice to the customer that the package has arrived, and gets back in the car to go to the next stop. Except the road is now being blocked by a sheriff's car. Husband stops and sheriff approaches him, telling him that he had received some calls about him, a suspicious man that was going from house to house and had packages in his vehicle. Husband gives him his ID and tells him, "I work for Amazon. I just delivered a package to that house back there. These other packages are for other customers." Sheriff takes a look at husband's ID, then his phone to take a look at the app. Then sheriff looks at his own phone before going to the house husband just left to see if the package was there. Sheriff then looks past husband and sees someone watching them. Husband described the look sheriff gave the person as a mix of course, and "Are you messing with me?" Sheriff then tells husband that he had been accused of being a porch pirate before stomping past husband to scream at the person watching them. Sheriff apparently not only knew the person who called to report husband as a porch pirate, but the delivery husband had just done was to the sheriff at his house. Sheriff went off on the nosy neighbor about, don't they have anything better to do, wasting police time, and how, yes, he was sure that husband was telling the truth since he had received the delivery notice on his phone and the package was on his porch. Sheriff came back to husband, thanked him for his time, and sent him on his way. Husband was annoyed that he was held up for over 20 minutes, but I think this story was worth it. Cue the malicious compliance. I was reminded of this earlier today when waiting to pay for some shopping. I'll mention this happened in the UK, as we do like to queue and have a strong sense of fair play. I was in a budget supermarket, well known for its insane checkout speeds. Those who shop there regularly know that when there are more than 2 people waiting at each till, another till will be opened. I had just arrived at the checkout area and noted the queue lengths, so joined the back of the nearest queue with my basket. As expected, they announced a new till was opening and I began to make my way there. I reached it at the same time as a chap from the opposite end of the store who spotted I had far fewer items than he and graciously beckoned me ahead. As I thanked him, a rather entitled woman precariously carrying lots of items came storming up behind us both, pushed past him, and physically elbowed me out of the way, slamming her items on the belt in front of me. Barking that she was in a hurry, she glared at the cashier who had just arrived and still had to log on to the till, telling him to be quick. The cashier, the chap behind me, and I exchanged glances, but decided not to make a fuss. Clearly, the cashier wasn't moving fast enough for her, so she started fishing around in her purse to get her payment ready. Unfortunately, it was a case of too much haste, and she ended up with coins falling through her fingers and rolling around the floor. This, she felt, was the cashier's fault for not pushing the items along fast enough and wasted few words in telling him so. But what she didn't notice while doing so is that one of the pound coins rolled quite close to me. I saw it and the chap behind saw it, but neither of us felt the urge to mention it. In fact, I now had a decision to make. I did not want to help her by telling her, but keeping the coin would be stealing. Then it occurred to me what to do. I moved my foot in front so the coin was now completely hidden from her sight. I waited a couple of minutes like this and watched her pay and put her purse away. The chap behind me caught my eye and frowned, but I smiled innocently. The woman began to pick up her items, juggling them in her arms, and made to leave. At the perfect moment, I called her attention and pointed out the coin, pushing it towards her with my foot. Watching her bending down at my feet, dropping the same items repeatedly whilst trying to pick up the coin, made up for all of her rudeness. Her hair even fell out of her bun all over her face. The cashier was so cheered up, he wished her a great day, and the man behind me laughed all the way through. The best part was that, although he knew exactly what I'd done, we just smiled at each other and left it at that. Told to come to drill weekend with pink eye? If you say so. National Guard. I got pink eye once the day before drill weekend. Called my sergeant and was told I still had to come to first formation. I told him that's a bad idea because it's very contagious and I could spread it to the whole company and that I'd be happy to make up for drill when it clears up. He says, "I don't care. You're not a doctor. It's probably nothing. You better be here in the morning." I even offered to send a photo of my eye. No dice. I drive an hour to my unit Saturday morning and no one with any authority will see me because they're too busy or they're not there yet. Then about 5 minutes before first formation, I find the company first sergeant and ask him if I can see a medic about my pink eye. He looks at me, looks closer, and then blows up. "Why are you here if you have pink eye? You could give that crap to everyone here. Why didn't you call in sick?" I tried first sergeant. I called yesterday and Sergeant Moron said I'm not a doctor and I better be here in the morning, so I'm here. Darn it. He then flags down a different sergeant, tells him to take me upstairs to our little in-house medical office and get checked out. Then he left to go choose Sergeant Moron a new one, but not before turning back and yelling, "And don't touch anything." So here we go. Doctor immediately says, "Yup, you've got pink eye. These are the drops you need to buy. You're dismissed from this drill. Head to CVS, get these drops, and go home. Get with your leadership, and you can make up this weekend when your eye clears up." Note, this was just an armory, so we didn't stock any actual medical supplies beyond Band-Aids and ibuprofen. Yes, sir. So I leave, get the drops, and drive an hour all the way back home. It was just such a waste of time and gas. Found out Monday that by Sunday afternoon, 3 other specialists had pink eye symptoms and left early, and Sergeant Moron got an official dressing down by the company commander for this mess up. All of it could have been avoided. His excuse? "I thought the fire drake was lying." Never missed a drill in 6 years, but sure, I'm gonna start now. I did make up the drill weekend 2 weeks later over a Tuesday and Wednesday, and Sergeant Moron wouldn't even look at me, let alone apologize. Just gave me a list of simple chores to work on and left me to it for 2 days. Some people shouldn't be in a leadership position. Am I the jerk for secretly going to the dentist? Background information. I live in my boyfriend's country. I speak the language at an advanced level, but not fluent, especially with medical terms. So I have severe anxiety and dental phobia. I haven't been to the dentist in years, and my boyfriend was hinting I should go. We agreed I would get anti-anxiety pills first and then go. He was going on a business trip, and I wanted to get my anxiety meds, but there wasn't enough time before, so I did it when he was abroad. Then I went to a dental clinic. Everything went well, and I told him about my appointment afterwards. I expected a happy and proud reaction that I did something I was scared of, but instead he was livid. He said I deceived him and did this behind his back. "You did what I can't stand, and you did it alone to avoid the situation with me, while deceiving me, and I think you are a true coward who avoids scary situations." Honestly, it is true I was scared of his reaction if I have cavities. I thought it would blame me more than the dentist. So he is angry because I didn't tell him about the appointment or bring him with me, and he also thinks I'm getting scammed because they told me I need to come back in for a deep cleaning since it's been so long. Yet, when he goes to a clinic, he doesn't ask permission or let me know beforehand. Plus, just last week at the airport, he forced me to do something alone because I have to be independent. And the week before, he didn't go with me to my haircut for the same reason. It seemed like mixed signals to me. He ruined the good mood I had after overcoming a fear of mine, and it also feels very, very controlling. What should I do? Edit. He has gone to the dentist alone before and only told me after the fact, multiple times. Edit. His explanation for deception is this. 1. We made a rough plan to go to the dentist soon, together. 2. I told him I need my anti-anxiety meds before the dentist. Before he left, I said I want to refill them, but didn't explain I had booked a dentist appointment, because honestly I wasn't even sure I could go through with it. So I didn't explain to him why I wanted the meds. I just said I wanted to finish something on my to-do list, which was also true. Then when he was gone, I got my meds and went to the dentist myself, because originally I preferred that. So he says I wasn't transparent since I planned everything and only told him after. Not the jerk. And girl, there is so much marinara here. Dump this jerk ASAP. OP. We've been dating for 7 years. I don't know if this is enough to break up over, but I don't feel good. It's enough if you feel it's enough. Many controlling people don't start out that way, and then they start gaslighting you until you get to the point of questioning whether the things they are doing are really that bad. Soon you make excuses for them like, they are only angry because they love me, and they're just worried about me, so they don't want me to do, insert anything normal people do. From the little background info you've given me, this does not sound like a one-time thing. As mentioned above, you are surrounded by marinara. Not the jerk. The only person scamming you here is your boyfriend. You went to the dentist, and he makes it all about him. Dump him like the cavity that he is. Well, how much marinara do you think boyfriend is showing? Please let us know. This boy's got more marinara than Papa John's. Did I do that right? I'm kind of new to this whole marinara thing. Am I the jerk for ordering for my sister's boyfriend while ordering all of the family-style plates at a restaurant? Last night, my parents asked to go out to dinner and offered to pay for everyone at a restaurant they wanted to share. They invited me, my husband, my sister, and her boyfriend. I'll call him Dave. My sister also invited a friend from work. This restaurant encourages family style, and that is what my parents wanted to pay for. Dave told the table that he would need a separate plate of noodles, pad thai, in addition to his share of the family-style plates. I started helping my mom build a list of dishes to order, and we asked everyone what they would like. Then I went over the list with everyone and asked if everyone was happy. My dad is nearly deaf, my mom can be shy, and my sister isn't very interested, so I would typically be the one to order in these scenarios. But I am never making decisions for other people, just collecting the list and ordering it. When the waitress came back, I told her the list of shared items, about 8 total, and also ordered the pad thai for Dave and clarified that it would be for him, not shared. She then asked him if he wanted to add a protein. Dave got super upset and started saying things like, "Wow, I really did not like that. Wow, this has never happened before. I have never had someone order for me. Wow, I really hated that. I'm going to have to process what just happened. Wow, I don't think I like that at all." What? I was kind of stunned. He was at the other end of the table and I didn't mean to upset him. I thought I was being nice by making sure his separate dish was ordered, and I didn't feel like I should be called out repeatedly in front of everyone. To be honest, I've been frustrated with Dave lately because he's living with my parents and my sister and he doesn't contribute financially. I thought it was a bit rude for him to insist that my parents buy an extra plate at a family-style dinner they were paying for, so adding on his very public outburst over me ordering for him has made me upset. I talked to my sister about how Dave's behavior last night made me frustrated, and she said I was being overly sensitive and that it was rude for me to order Dave's dish. Am I the jerk for ordering Dave's dish at the restaurant while I ordered for the table? Not the jerk. I think it's helpful when there are so many people to have one person do the ordering for the table. Next time say, "The gentleman over there would like to order something on a separate check." Not the jerk. Dave's a weirdo. Not the jerk. Table captain, carry on. It sounds like it was a large group of people, and if it was a family-style seating, I'd imagine the table was a little larger than normal. Pointing out to the waiter where the dish was to go is helpful. It ensures that the food gets placed with the person that will eat it. Otherwise, it's going to end up in your space, and then there's a juggle to get it to Dave. Serving is a dance, and you helped out. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Dave? Please let us know. Why does there always have to be a Dave? Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my step-siblings? I, 16 male, live mostly with my mom and see my dad every other weekend, per my choice. My dad is married to Shayna, and she has 3 kids who are under the age of 8. Shayna was recently diagnosed with cancer,
and they started calling on me to babysit so she could rest, or babysit so she could go get treatment and stuff. I said no. I don't want to be stuck babysitting her kids all the time, and I don't really want to be part of their family. I was never super close to my dad, and I'm not close to Shayna or her kids either, and I don't really want to be. My dad's family don't accept his stepkids, so they won't help out, and Shayna has no family in the US anymore, so they've been pretty upset at me for not wanting to help them out. When I am with them for my dad's weekends, which I need to go to, the judge said in court, Mom needs to make sure I keep some relationship with my dad while I'm a minor, and even threatened to fine her because I asked if she'd be in trouble if I stopped seeing my dad. They will often get me to watch the kids, or it will be a big deal that I don't help them more. They also complain that I make it so obvious that I don't want to be with them. Shayna had a bad reaction to her treatment during the week, and I was asked to babysit Saturday so she could rest and maybe go to the ER if she got worse. When I didn't go, my dad blew up my phone, saying I was being a jerk, and how dare I treat one of my parents the way I'm treating Shayna. I told him he was hardly a parent to me, so he could buzz right off with saying Shayna is one of my parents. He said babysitting would be no big deal and would be a great chance for me and the kids to bond, that refusing to is abandoning them when they could use an older brother. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, and here's why. You don't like the whole family, and you don't need to. These are not your kids or your siblings. You have no bond with them. They should pay a babysitter. You are their stepson, not a free babysitter, but it would be nice if you helped out once or twice, but not constantly. One wonders why the dad can't look after the kids to give his wife a rest. Edit. Childcare is the dad's responsibility, but he shouts at his kid for not doing it. This comment is not smug, nor does it insult the dad for no reason. It indicates mild skepticism based on the fact that the father is acting like a total jerk towards his kid. A father that is such a great father that his kid would prefer not to see him. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you babysit your step-siblings or not? Please let us know.
If I dislike them that much, no, I'm not doing anything for them. They can get over it.
Karen demands my college fund. I, 19 female, have an aunt, Amy, who's 38, who I love and she loves me dearly. It's never been explicitly stated, but between my sister, Kim, who's 17, and myself, I'm the favorite niece. I didn't really notice until I was around my early teens, but whenever I had an event, my aunt would always try to be there, while she was never there for anything my sister did. I got nicer presents, and there are pictures of me in her house, and she texts and calls me regularly. She barely acknowledges my sister, and I never knew why. One of the reasons why it took so long for me to notice was because whenever someone would mention something about the different treatment, our mom would just brush it off, and since Amy was my paternal aunt, I just accepted it. Fast forward to now, and my mom sent me down and asked me if I would be willing to go to a less expensive school so I could have extra money to share with Kim. Aunt Amy set up a fund for me and my two cousins, but didn't have a dime for Kim. She did this with Kim looking at me for an answer and got upset that I didn't give a definite yes. She accused me of not caring about her, just like Aunt Amy, and is refusing to speak to me until I give her half of the money. I thought that this was wildly unfair and asked my parents why they didn't have their own fund for Kim, since Aunt Amy was taking care of me. They said that they did, but it wasn't as much as what Aunt Amy had for me. She's a smart woman who makes a lot of money, and admitted that they had to dip into it to help pay for things when my dad wasn't working because of lockdown. I feel bad for Kim, but I don't want to sacrifice my future college experience for it. Am I really being so maliciously selfish? Entitled Aunt thinks family means free dog sitter at her demand. So my aunt is always going camping with her son or hiking trips with her boyfriend about every other weekend, and she never takes her dog with her. The current excuse is she doesn't think he'll get along with her boyfriend's dog. She never takes him anywhere, always has me and my parents' dog sit for her. It wouldn't be a problem if he wasn't a dog from heck. He pees on everything, he's super territorial, he bites people for being too close, terrorizes my cats to the point that they're terrified of coming downstairs when he's here. When we dog sit, she rarely picks him up when she's supposed to. She's always super late to everything. She'll say that she'll be here at 9 p.m., and instead it's close to midnight when she shows up. Or she won't show up until the next day because she or her son were too tired to swing by on their way home to get the dog. There have been several instances where she'll ask my dad if he can watch the dog, And even without him actually agreeing to it, she'll show up in our backyard with her dog for us to watch. She has a history of having Facebook tantrums about how she has to cancel her plans during the times we say no, and how it's so unfair to her. Well, my parents are going on a 2-week vacation at the start of August. I'm staying home to take care of the house and our pets, and have plans to go to my grandma's, who lives 1.5 hours away, to do a joint birthday celebration with hers, since our birthdays are that first week of the month. My aunt heard about my parents' plan of vacation last month and decided around the 4th that she's going on a vacation to the Grand Canyon with her son, her boyfriend, and his son, for those same 2 weeks my parents will be having theirs. The woman had the actual gall to ask my folks to reschedule their vacation so that they'd be home to babysit her dog for 2 weeks. My parents flat out refused, because why should they have to reschedule their vacation for her? She refused to accept their refusal, and while we were all hanging out at my grandma's backyard, she just kept trying to persuade us. My aunt,
We,
her and her son,
never get to take a vacation together out of state. I don't want to have to cancel.
Dad, you don't have to cancel. You'll have to find someone or some place to watch your dog since wife and I won't be here, or just take him with you. And,
Well, he's not good with these kinds of trips.
Mom, have you ever actually taken him on a trip? You don't know how well he handles these if you've never taken him. And,
Well, he probably won't get along with boyfriend's dog, and he gets so mean around people. OP, you're not going, so you can watch him, can't you? You don't have anything else to do.
me, no, I have plans during that time, and watching him on my own is exhausting. He bit me 3 times the last time he was here, and I have to watch him like a hawk to make sure he doesn't attack my cats.
Well, the cats just hide upstairs when he's around, so they'll be fine.
Me, and you think it's fair for our cats to have to hide upstairs for 2 whole weeks? One of them gets so freaked out by him just being there that she barely eats when he's around. 3 days is hard enough on her. 2 weeks is cruel.
Well,
You could figure something out.
I really don't want to have to take him to the kennels for 2 weeks. I don't think it's humane to keep a dog in a kennel.
Are you sure you two can't just push your vacation back a few weeks? It's just a lot of no's, and eventually the conversation dropped and we thought that everything was fine. But then my aunt went on her usual Facebook rants because she probably felt no one in the family would see. Only my mom, my sister, our uncle, different aunt's husband, and his son are ever really on Facebook besides her. Going on a "woe is me, the world is unfair" complaint about how we're mean and that family is supposed to help each other out. So why can't we just stop being selfish and watch her dog? And if she doesn't have anyone to watch her dog, then she and her son will have to cancel plans and won't be able to go with her boyfriend and his son to the Grand Canyon, and how unfair this was to them. She's also been pestering us constantly since then, the Facebook post, to see if we're suddenly available to take her dog for her. I'm honestly not going to be surprised if she just shows up in the backyard again to drop him off, regardless of being told no. Edit. I see people bringing up pretty valid concerns of him really hurting someone, but I don't think he's physically capable of that. He can be a pretty mean jerk, but he's also like 10 pounds and an ankle biter who's missing half his teeth. He can bite and it'll sting, but it's fairly easy to throw him off with how little and light he is. Though I don't encourage throwing animals, if he attacks someone, it wouldn't be that hard to do. Though I do think he'd be very capable of hurting other small animals, but I ain't an expert in this field, so I might be wrong. Tell her this. Tell her, I know you asked if I could keep the dog and I said no. I meant it. Just in case you forget and accidentally drop your dog off, I'm reminding you now that I am unavailable. If your dog gets dropped off, he will be taken to a kennel. If they refuse him for any reason, he will be taken to a shelter. I am unavailable. If you put me in this situation, I will assume you no longer care about the dog and have abandoned him. Speaking of dogs, what's your favorite dog in the world? Please let us know.
Rottweilers for the win. Reddit boy had one when he was little, and he misses her so much.
Am I the jerk for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll? I, 26 male, have been with my still girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 4 years. Last year, I gave her a key to my house. She spends a few days there, but we don't live together full time. A few days ago, I had to make a quick trip for work. She asked me if she could invite a few of her friends to the house for a girls' night. It was on Thursday. I accepted.
I returned yesterday in the morning. The first thing I noticed was that the rag doll was missing from the wall. My first instinct was to call my girlfriend to ask if she had put it somewhere else. She denied it and said the doll was there. It wasn't. I checked the GPS of the doll. Yes, it has a GPS. The GPS marked the house of one of her friends. Let's call her Jess. I tried to be nice and told my girlfriend to tell her friend to bring it back before 5 p.m. and I'll pretend this never happened or I'll involve the police. She tried to fight it, but I told her about the GPS. Well, my girlfriend called me back saying that Jess denied having the doll. We had a huge argument and I warned her that I wasn't playing about getting the police involved. I waited until 5 and went to the police. We went to her house and got the doll back. I pressed charges. My girlfriend and I had a bigger argument about me pressing charges. They, including her, knew that the doll was made by my father. They could have stolen anything else and I wouldn't bat an eye. I gave her friend a chance and she tried to play stupid. They've been calling me a jerk and to drop the charges. Edit. I will answer some of your questions here. If you have more, I will try to answer them. The doll is with me. It's a rag doll. Better said, it's a Raggedy Ann doll. My father had many hobbies. He tried making dolls and was planning to sell them, but the first one he made was a Raggedy Ann doll, so it didn't last. He was too manly to sell Raggedy Ann dolls. Ridiculous, I know. And he gave me that one. And actually, he made 4 more for my best friends. The doll was hanging in my room, but once he passed, I hung it in the living room. It has X's as eyes, and it looks creepy. It has a GPS because my home was robbed 7 months ago. I don't care if they clean out the house as long as they leave the doll. I have more expensive items she could have stolen, so I don't know why she would steal the doll other than a sick joke. My girlfriend never complained about it, at least not to me. I haven't talked to her other than telling me to drop the charges. I will talk to her tomorrow to find out why she let her friend take the doll. They've been here before and never did anything like this. And about our relationship, because right now, I'm thinking about breaking up. Not the jerk, but your girlfriend is for being upset with you rather than the friend who literally stole from you. Don't drop these charges, dude. Stand your ground and maybe rethink if you want to be with a girl who's okay with sentimental items made by your father being stolen from you. Oh, and change her locks, but don't give her a new key. Not the jerk. Jess could have saved herself from the hassle of police involvement by not stealing or by just fessing up and returning the doll once caught. Your girlfriend could have saved Jess from the hassle of police involvement by telling Jess to cut the crap once she knew the doll had a tracker in it and was unequivocally being stored at Jess's place. You gave them every option to do the right thing. It's not your fault they chose poorly. Also, change your locks. Your girlfriend is obviously not trustworthy enough to have unmonitored access. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend and Jess? Please let us know. I want to know why you'd even be willing to stay with her after this crap. You want eye contact? Okay, sir. Background. I used to work retail in a DVD/CD store that rhymes with manatee. It's in Australia. We had computers that we could use to find certain titles and artists in the store if we had it in stock, or we could even order from any of the other 300 plus stores in the country and have it shipped to the store. Many people would use this for older CDs or collector items that were harder to get. One day, an older bloke came in asking about a certain smaller 80s rock band. I can't really remember the name. I looked on the computer for him and was about to track down their album names, which of those albums he wanted, located the album in stores around the country, and got his details to enter into the computer for when the albums arrived in stores so that we could contact him. He thanked me and said that he was so happy we could get these albums in for him and left the store. The next day, I get called into the boss's office because of a customer complaint. It was and is my only ever complaint in any job for the past 9 years of working. He had rang up and complained that while my service was lovely, I didn't make enough eye contact when I was using the computer. Cue malicious compliance. 3 days later, he came in because he had another band he wanted to order. Luckily, I was working. As soon as he walked in, I greeted him with the biggest smile and locked him straight in the eyes. When he asked if we had any of his band in stock, I typed in the computer while maintaining direct eye contact. It took me about 4 tries to find the right keyboard letters as I wasn't that great at touch typing. He was starting to get annoyed, but he didn't voice it. Then I had to search what store location these albums were at. That took another couple of attempts to type. I turned the computer monitor around to the point it looked like I was going to snap it off.
I had to move displays from the counter, which took more time, but finally I was able to set it up at such an angle that I could read it off with a quick glance, but also still maintain eye contact. At this point, he started to squirm and look away, but I was only beginning. Next was his details and taking his deposit, normally $10. It took me a solid 6 attempts to enter his details into the system, as you had to select each box to type in, and that was hard considering I wasn't looking. At this point, he had gone rather quiet and was looking at his shoes. When he handed me his money, I still maintained direct eye contact and even dropped it accidentally out of my hand, which then led me to awkwardly slap around on the floor until my hand found it. Wouldn't want to break that eye contact looking for a few coins. After all the typing attempts, it took me an extra 10 minutes to serve him, all because I couldn't look at what I was doing. To this day, I've seen him a couple of times, but he won't come to my register, and he doesn't make eye contact or hides in the aisles until I'm busy with another customer. A shame, really. He had such lovely brown eyes. Am I the jerk for expecting my girlfriend to pay for her stay at my family's cabin? My grandparents own a big old cabin where every generation after them has enjoyed annual family vacations. Due to the cabin's age, there is constant maintenance that needs to be done. Every time we've replaced, fixed, or repaired something, there's another thing that needs fixing. We also started slowly renovating the cabin as the interior has become quite dated as well. These costs have become too much for my grandparents to handle alone, especially since their age means they can't do much of the work themselves, and they need to hire professionals instead. This has caused them to implement a fee system. The rule is as follows. Every person from the age of 20 years old needs to pay an annual fee to be allowed to stay in the cabin. The size of the fee varies as it is calculated according to how many people plan on using the cabin and how big the upkeep costs were the previous year. I've happily paid this fee ever since the rule was implemented, and so have my parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Every summer, my extended family tries to find a weekend during the summer where most of our vacations overlap so that we can all meet at the cabin and catch up. I decided to invite my girlfriend along as I want to introduce her to this tradition, as she is someone I'm imagining spending many future summers at the cabin with. She was ecstatic about the idea of meeting my extended family and going to the cabin, as she's very curious about it after hearing me talk about it a lot. Naturally, I sat her down and told her about the rule and how she needed to pay, as everyone else paid, and it was only fair for her to do so as well since she would be using the cabin when coming with me this year. The year's fee is around $200 to $400, depending on how many people use the cabin, due to a big roof leak and some pretty substantial water damage. The idea of paying this fee really upset her, and we had a big argument where she concluded with saying she would make other plans without me this summer. The rule is very simple and made completely fair on everyone. I don't understand why she thinks she should be exempt from this. My brother told me I should just pay her fee for her, as my extended family really would like to meet her. But I really don't think that's fair for me to pay double the fee when she's completely capable of paying it herself. Am I the jerk? Edit. The cabin is not leaky anymore. All the damages were fixed this spring. My uncle handles the finances for this and usually pays for everything before calculating the individual costs at the end of the year. You're the jerk. She's perfectly within her right not to want to spend $200 to $400 for a weekend at a shared, broken-down cabin. It's not her family's property, she has no emotional attachments to it, and she may never reap the benefits of fixing it up.
Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.